across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good morning to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. This is Talk, the home of common sense, with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. And whether you're listening on DAB+ radio on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device, we are set for yet another busy show. We have the small matter of this thing called the King's Speech, the state opening of Parliament. It's usually rather a big affair. It's the sort of thing we'd probably be talking about from Sunday onwards. It's happening in any normal time, but these are not normal times. In fact, the biggest story today is the fact that Wes Street and the Health Secretary took quite some time to get a meeting with his own Prime Minister, and that meeting took precisely 16 minutes from entering the door of Downing Street to leaving the door, given that the Prime Minister's office is, I believe, on the first floor. Taken some time just to walk up the stairs and get in there. I mean, certainly the general view is that must have been just an espresso rather than a long latte, for instance, but given how quickly that meeting lasted. I would suggest that wasn't, should we say, a positive meeting. So what is going to happen after that? Well, we shall wait and see. And whatever we hear, we will bring it to you first here at Talk. If you do miss anything from the show, whether you're listening on DAB+ radio or your smart speaker, all the other different ways you can listen and watch, you can go to my YouTube page, The Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. Hit subscribe. You never have to miss a thing. As I say, coming up in this hour, we're going to discuss that 16-minute meeting. We're going to be discussing all the other runners and riders. Ed Miliband apparently being reported to be lined up by the left in the Labour Party to challenge Wes Streeting if he does go for it, as many suspect he might do, either this evening after the King's Speech at around 11:30 this morning or tomorrow. Kind of it's a put up or shut up moment for the Health Secretary, if he does want to be leader. And big question marks about whether or not Andy Burnham does or does not have this supposedly, as if such a thing exists in this country anymore, safe Labour seat, where an MP will resign and he can run and get back into Parliament and then run to be not just King of the North, but King of Westminster as well. Meanwhile, Angie Rayner is still apparently plotting to launch her leadership campaign too. Will any of this actually happen, or will it all die down? And can the Prime Minister survive? There's no doubt at all. He is walking wounded, and I would say crawling wounded. Everyone knows he ain't fighting the next election as Labour leader. I don't think anyone thinks realistically he's surviving past the autumn. Very big question marks about whether he would survive at the end of the week without an actual formal leadership challenge. But we're going to be talking about all of that and whether or not his big, bold offer on defence spending. Why are you making offers? You're the sodding Prime Minister, for goodness sake. It's going to be enough to win back support, not just on the backbenches, but also on Britain's streets. Well, all of that coming up, plenty more besides. Delighted to say I'm joined by somebody who, frankly, lives for these sorts of weeks in Parliament. Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor. Good morning.
Morning.
I mean, you love a state opening of Parliament more than life itself, don't you?
I do, and we're not going to be concentrating on it, which is really sad.
And you're not going to be able to be there, even though you've got all those Commons passes. You work in the Deputy Speaker's office. You can go and hang out and watch all this stuff up close and personal.
But I hang out with you because this is more important.
And we appreciate that. I'm sorry, I should have come in more finery for you. Frankly,
Where's
I think
crown?
should, a tiara minimum surely
Yes.
today, but sadly not. It is extraordinary that on the day of the King's Speech that it barely merits a mention, other than basically what's not in it, because frankly, if the Prime Minister thinks some spending on defence, which by the way everyone thinks should have happened 2 years ago, and it won't be enough, and it won't be soon enough, and British Steel and taking away peerages from disgraced peers.
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely, care, love. This is not what people were talking about when they cast their votes in the local Welsh and Scottish elections last week. The pubs were not full of people going, you know what I really need is a bill going through Parliament to make sure that someone who's a disgraced peer, Lord Manson or wherever, doesn't get to keep their peerage. I mean, people might think that's a good idea. It's not in their top 4 million priorities.
Yeah. When
they're trying to pay to put, filled up the car at the weekend. I'm like, when it clicks over to the 100 and you go, you what?
Yeah.
paying your bills, your council tax just gone up, everything is going up, your taxes are going, everyone knows that all our taxes are going up in the next few years to pay for all this welfare spending and everything else, and the increase in the cost of borrowing, all that. I mean, no one is talking about the stuff which the Prime Minister thinks is worthwhile. Do you think that he has got the stomach for the fight, the ability, the leadership skills? Does he stay?
I think he stays for now. That's the best we can say for him at the moment. Yesterday was...
What's now?
Well,
this week. Right.
This week. I mean, I think unless somebody comes up with a credible plan to take over, they're not going to get rid of him this week. And that's where the Labour Party failed. They didn't have anybody organised and ready to go. They just sort of had a little conversation amongst themselves in their varying different factions, but didn't put up a credible candidate or a plan. Yeah. So it was a lot of people who went over the top, who didn't really mean to go over the top. Catherine West, I'm looking at you. Yeah. And everybody just fell apart. If you can't organise a coup, don't do it.
And this is the thing. There is an element where you think, oh, for goodness sake, the people trying to take over are as useless as the person they're trying to take over from. Yeah. Which is quite something. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the low calibre of the front bench of the Labour Party. I mean, let's be honest. When we saw the names of these, all these resignations from the various ministers and the Labour MPs who came out and said, we think you should go, this is 80 plus now, but supporting different factions, and therefore, as the Prime Minister's quite right, it does not fulfil the rubric, the requirement for a proper challenge. I mean, most of us are just going, who are you? I mean, I've just literally never heard of you. I haven't even heard of that job title. I mean, they're just total and utter no marks. Other than Jess Phillips, I mean, the only reason we know about her is because she's so useless at her job.
Well, precisely, and I think everyone just I think everybody thought that was the moment you would see other big names, because until you have a big cabinet name, nothing is happening. You've got people who we didn't even know they existed, a load of bag carriers, the PPSs who thought they were really important, and everyone just went, well, I'm sorry, who? Yeah, exactly. So you're not going to get very far. They can't get themselves organised. It's now 93 apparently that have called on Sakir to go. So there was another one added. 93. Yeah, so another one added this morning.
So 93 saying they should go. Yeah. Some of those being former ministerial aides. 100 plus MPs have signed a letter supporting the Prime Minister. Some of those apparently saying, no one actually asked me before they put my name on. A number of those are also the PPSs. So you basically, if you're in government and you won't sign that, you do have to resign. That's part of the deal. Yeah. But you've got 140 plus who are staying silent. And if you're staying silent at this moment, you basically don't think the Prime Minister's up to it, but you don't want to fall on your sword just yet and blot your copybook. The thing is, you can't take back a statement that says, I just don't think the Prime Minister's up to it, he needs to go. That's out there. You can't just go, do you know what? Turns out my man's not got the balls to actually run for the leadership, so I'm fine now with him. You can't. That's there. That is going to be there at the next general election. It's going to be there at the next local election. That's not going away. So everyone's kind of been marched to the top of the hill and just been left there. I think certainly some of the close sort of ministerial aides and the supporters of Wes Streeting are going, Wes?
Yeah.
Wes? Are you going to do something? Do you think that he will go? Because a 16-minute meeting with the Prime Minister couldn't meet with him yesterday. Even the Prime Minister said, "I'll speak to you all one-on-one." After they all extraordinarily at cabinets went, "Okay, he says we can't talk about this at cabinet, so we won't." I mean,
I know.
Gross, some cojones, chaps, But if he goes for it, there is a view that this is his only chance. If Andy Burnham can get back in, Andy Burnham wins. Yes, with the membership. Angie Rayner, Ed Miliband being talked up as possible contenders. Yeah. Both have their problems, obvious in both cases. If we let's say we did see a contest between Miliband, Rayner now and Wes Streeting, who would win?
See, that's really hard because they appeal to different parts of the Labour Party. Yep. And those parts can't really decide whether they want to get behind a candidate anyway. So I think you're sort of swimming around in the depths of not really understanding what you want the Labour Party to look like. I think perhaps, Andy Burnham, if he was an MP, had more chance, but he isn't. And there isn't a possibility of him becoming one anytime soon. It will take weeks and months for that.
There was a lot of talk for and against whether or not he had an MP willing to resign yesterday.
But you'll always get that. You'll always get people saying, "Oh well, somebody said they'll give them their seat." Well, are they going to give up their seat that they've got for the next 3 years for
90
anti-Burnham.
plus grand a year.
Why would you give it up? What's in it for them?
I mean,
I'm sorry, but that's how they're going to think.
Well, you have to be very sure your man's going to be getting the job, and then he can give you a job that pays equivalent. I mean,
Precisely.
so but MPs have mortgages too.
Yeah.
They have husbands and wives going, seriously,
Yeah.
how are we paying the supermarket?
The petrol for the car.
I mean, come on. I'd love to know from you, what do you think? My question, we're harking back a little bit. Will he stay or will he go? You get the reference. What do you think Keir Starmer is going to do? I want to know what you think. Not what you've read, what do you think Keir Starmer is going to do? Is he going to go? If so, how soon? Do you think anyone is actually going to challenge him properly? Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Exciting thing today is our phone lines are working for the entire show, I'm hoping. Don't want to jinx it. But 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. Text us on 87222. Get in touch on X at talkTV. Calls are charged the national rate. You know this bit. Text costs £1, standard network rate message. Let's also talk about this big bold offer the Prime Minister's going to make apparently on defence. A couple of dozen bills in this King's speech. I mean, frankly, none of it remotely beginning to tackle the problems this country has. Nothing on tackling the cost of living.
No.
The main thing the government could do on cost of living is basically just get the hell out of regulate, let people get on with their lives and run businesses. Nothing to tackle, the madness of net zero. So, taking that out of the law, the legal framework. Thanks, Theresa May, for that. You're not going to boost the economy. No. You're not going to boost jobs if you've still got net zero. Nothing on immigration. Nothing at all on trying to tackle the ballooning welfare bill, that pathetic attempt to cut $5 billion off the increase in welfare that was planned. That failed. This is a government that can do nothing.
Yes. I mean, we've all known that for some time, but it's now becoming increasingly obvious to the rest of the world that they can do nothing. It seems the one thing at the heart of the King's speech will be the reset with the European Union. Yeah. There seems to be more detail floating around about that, about how closer ties will make us better off. But actually it won't, and we all know it won't. So why are we putting that in the King's speech when you should be looking at things like welfare, the defence spending that needs to be increased?
And we're told that we are finally, after, I mean, it's months and months and months since Lord Robertson, a former British Defence Secretary, former NATO Secretary-General, before he actually, his done his report, we thought the government was actually going to say, we're going to commit some money. But I mean, we need the money now, not in 2030.
But we still haven't got the defence plan published, and that was due, I think it was April last year, so 2025. That was due, still hasn't come forward. We promised it at the beginning of this year, and then March. And we're still waiting. So I don't think you can put together a bill unless you have that, because you don't understand where your spending's coming from or where that money is going to be found.
Because weirdly, it all has to add up. And of course, you've got no idea what money you've got to spend, where you don't know what's happening with the Iran conflict, with oil price rises, and us being, of course, peculiarly impacted by that with higher inflation as a result of the fact that we are not a net exporter of oil, and we are particularly dependent on liquefied natural gas and other oil imports as well, because of our mad net zero policies. I mean, this hasn't happened by accident, but because also, we've got massive, boosts our inflation, and that impacts on our borrowing costs. And, borrowing costs going up by a couple of billion here, a couple of billion there. Every single penny you're spending on the interest payment for our £2 trillion worth of national debt. 2 trillion. How many zeros is that, for goodness sake? Every penny you spend on that is a penny you are not spending on defence or the NHS or pensions or mending potholes or putting back in people's pockets so they can afford things themselves.
And that's the other aspect of it, is if you make people feel better off, and in fact are better off, then they will spend into the economy. I don't understand why they can't see how easy that is. But if you increase people's confidence, they'll spend more.
That only works, I think you'll find, you check more closely, if you just give that to people in welfare, as opposed to letting people keep more of the money they've earned themselves.
Oh, is that what it's like?
Did you not get that memo?
Yes.
Fairness. If I hear one more comment about fair, what is fair? Well, let's talk about fairness on the people who get up in the morning and go to work. Yeah. And are still struggling to pay their bills. I had an MP on yesterday talking about the fairness of, helping people, who've got, who've been hit by the 2-child benefit cap, and how, as of April, they're not hit by it. And that was fair. Well, it's not fair on the two people. Most again, not knowing the facts, and the facts are clear. It's official statistics in terms of what, who are the people who are claiming this extra benefits. £3,500 a year. £3,500 a year. No, it's not. 20 quid a week. It's £3,500 a year. That these people are are mostly not working. And if anyone is working, it's only one person in the household who's working, and they're working part-time. And then everyone's surprised they can't afford to keep their kids food and fed and clothed on their own income. But the parents who are going out to work every day, who've only had 1 or 2 kids because they'd love 3 or would love 2, they can't afford it because they can't afford a bigger home and they can't afford, the time off work. They're working too, both of them are working full time, and they're paying extra taxes to fund people who aren't working, who, by the way, a large percentage of them are foreign-born, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, not second generation, foreign-born arrivals who are entitled to our benefits. I'm sorry, if you want to talk about fairness, that is literally the epitome of unfairness.
Well, it is, and the people that are going out to work have ever-increasing transport costs, whether that be bus fares, rail fares, petrol. They still have to get about, so you're spending all of that money. Childcare is then very expensive. Because woe betide, one person can stay at home and look after the children. It just doesn't happen these days. You have to go out and you fork out for childcare.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the thousands. I think a lot of old generation who didn't have this just don't get. I mean, we were looked after by our Auntie Jean, our neighbour next door, after nursery. So, it was all kind of on the, people did things rather more casually in those days. Oh, hello, Auntie Jean. Just to let you know, the SNP, Scottish National Party, they said they're going to try and force a vote on the Prime Minister's future in the coming days, because, of course, you have all these votes on the King's speech, but they want to force an amendment which will basically be about the future of the Prime Minister, saying he's lost the confidence of voters and his own MPs, and there's no coming back from that. And let's face it, I think they're right on that front. I really do. Let's talk about some other stories. I mean, Donald Trump, by the way, putting his tuppence worth in, saying Sami needs to, stop with the windmills and start drilling. I mean, you're right on that. He's on his way to Beijing. We'll see what happens there. God knows what he's going to give away to Beijing in return for some help on Iran. Polanski, the deified saint of Zach Polanski, Mr. Always Need Lovely, charismatic according to the BBC and Sky, Zach Polanski. The shine is coming off him as it's been revealed again and again. Well, he's running a party which is full of blatantly anti-Semitic people. He's sucking up to the Islamist extremists to get their vote. Very bizarrely, this cross-section of the LGBTQ plus progressives in their heads and this sort of pro-Palestinian lot. I mean, these two things do not go well together. But he's faced a lot of problems over his Walter Mitty, or Walter Titty, as I love the fact he's been billed after, basically, he could hypnotise women into having bigger breasts. I say it worked with me. He claimed he worked for the British, as a spokesman for the British Red Cross. He did not. He's claimed he did some work with the Ministry of Justice. They'd never heard of him. And he didn't pay his full council tax on his houseboat. He's all just a bit confused about whether or not he needed to pay it. I love all these MPs. Well, he's not even an MP. He's just a local government assembly member in London. But people who are elected office who don't know where they live. And who don't manage their taxes properly, like Angela Rayner. And people think this is like a Westminster stuff. No, when we're all forced, because we only have one home, like most people, to pay our council tax, and it goes up every year, and we get less and less back for it, we get remarkably irked, I'm trying to use a phrase I cannot be off-commed for, irked off by people who apparently think they should run the country but don't pay their own taxes.
And when he is a sitting representative elected to a position where you have local government, where you make the decisions where council tax is spent, you should be on top of it. I was elected to a local council that I paid my council tax to. I made damn sure that direct debit went out every month, that I was correct, because it's hypocritical not to be if you're going to stop.
But also, just being
I just don't understand.
I mean, I'm always, I would be anywhere. I'm just brought up to be there's large. Okay, I may or may not have sped on a motorway. You know what I mean? But I'm largely law-abiding, right? I think of myself as a law-abiding citizen, and I just find it extraordinary that people, especially people in the public eye, who don't think that we're going to care about this stuff. And again, he's clearly just slack with this stuff. Doesn't care. Thought he could get away with it. Didn't know. Whatever. Either way, I can get the same with Angela Rayner and her stamp duty. You're the housing secretary. You literally brought in the law that you on extra stamp duty for second homes, which you actually then flouted. I'm sorry. I'm very unforgiving of this stuff. And I feel the same way about saying Nigel Farage and his £5 million. I've got no issue if that £5 million is genuinely for his personal security, because I think it's outrage. I mean, it's absolutely immoral that our state does not pay for his security when he gets death threats all the time. And I know that we are talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds to have the sort of security that he needs. And it's different from an average MP who gets the odd nasty message, you know, on Twitter. That's a completely different thing, what he is facing. But I just want to see the receipts, you know, and it looked like there might be a parliamentary standards investigation because, of course, although he wasn't an MP at the time and actually was not planning to be an MP at the time, I know this for a fact at that time he was not. People were trying to talk him into coming back into Parliament at that time. When he had this £5 million from a billionaire, the rules are still clear. You know, within a year of coming to office, you need to declare, and not just something that was towards your election, but also anything that could be perceived. And of course, this could be perceived. And I'm about opportunities. I actually don't want any donations from billionaires to any or millionaires to or big companies to any politicians. I would like to take money out of our politics. I think it corrupts deeply, and it completely skews how politics works in this country and how much attention is paid to ordinary people's needs as opposed to billionaires and millionaires' needs, and that accounts for every politician across the board. No one gives you £5 million and expects nothing back. No one in the world, with the best will in the world. But I'm quite happy if that was for security. I am really happy for say that's absolutely fine. I think it's outrageous you don't get this, you know, support from the state for your security. But I want to see the receipts.
Absolutely, and you have to register these things. And when you sign up with the House of Commons, the first day that they come into Parliament, the newly elected MPs, you go through this whole procedure of signing bits of paper, and you go and see the standards people to know what it is you have to register. So those questions should have been asked then.
Even as a journalist, when I was a lobby correspondent, I mean, if you have a lobby pass, so you can walk around, you can walk into Downing Street and things like that. You actually have to sign a register of interest. I have to register anything. Every time I did a speech or you know who'd paid me, and you know. And you do that for a good reason.
Absolutely, and I list everything down. Everybody that pays me for freelance work,
they're like, down. Claire, love, that's enough. We don't pay you enough, surely.
Little post-it note.
I mean, just want to. I want to get your calls any moment now. 0344 499 1000. Just one other story I want to talk about. Calls for a boycott of Eurovision, which is this weekend. We had one of the first semi-final last night. The next semi-final is Thursday night. The reason I know this is because a very good friend of mine, friend of the station actually, Tonya Buxton, you'll know her, big anti-lockdown campaign, a very good friend of mine. Her daughter Antigone is actually the representative for Cyprus, their Greek Cypriot born, and a fabulous, beautiful, amazing talent that she is. So I've got to be honest with you, not that impressed with our contribution, and I'm very much, you either win or you get 0 points. Anything in between is just embarrassing. But so I'm supporting you, Antigone. But you know the Israelis got through. The Israeli and of course as always, there's been protests. You get the usual suspect, Zora Sultana, who's currently got nothing else to do. So saying that we should boycott Eurovision because of it. The Irish government are not playing. They're not going to screen Eurovision. Instead, that hilariously they're going to play an episode of Father Ted, written, of course, by a man who they totally disapprove of. You know,
I mean, that. It was very, very funny.
It is extraordinary. Whose views on trans they completely disagree with as well. I mean, where are you on all of this?
But it's just utterly ridiculous. I mean, in our house, it is a bit of a family tradition that we watch it. My son absolutely loves it. We are great fans of Eurotrash pop music.
Are you? I like the event, but I can't bear the music.
Oh, no. But it's one of those things that we've come to love. For some reason, my son wants to take me to a concert that is from a Dutch guy who was at Eurovision. I mean, wow. This is what I get in my house.
That is a mother's love.
My Spotify playlist.
Is it shocking?
Yes. It's embarrassing.
Okay.
But it should go ahead. Israel need to be in it. They're in it. Good luck.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Again, I might split my vote. I might go a bit over half Israel, half Cyprus from a friend. Precisely. I genuinely, because it is a political vote. It is a political vote. I mean, and I don't mind if either wins. I don't think the England entry, the UK entry is going to win, in which case, don't bother wasting your time. I'm not being unpatriotic. As I've always said, let's put up, Adele or Coldplay, whoever it is who's, I don't know who's in the charts these days. Put up one of the people who literally sells 1 billion records every day and put one of them up and then say to the rest of Europe, go on, give us 0 point now. All you listen to on your radio stations is British and American music. Get the hell over yourself when you're voting for some mad act from, you know, from Serbia or something. Give me a break, with all due respect. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts on rather more important things. Please do not call about Eurovision. I'm going to ban calls on Eurovision. No, I've already talked too much about Eurovision. 10:27 is the time. I'm going to get your calls up next. 0344 499 1000. I want to hear from you. Simple question: will he stay or will he go? What do you think Keir Starmer will do? This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:29 is the time. Don't forget, we've got the King's Speech. Small matter, King's Speech, straight over from Parliament in about an hour's time. We will bring you the King speaking live. It's about a 20-minute speech around the 10:30 mark, and we will take that live, so do stay tuned for that. Lots more top guests coming up talking about, well, the Prime Minister, and let's face it, that's the main show in town. Is this going to be his last King's Speech? Is this going to be his last week before he actually has to name a date for him to go? Who knows? Well, let's ask you what you think. Will he stay or will he go? Chris in Hereford is on the line. Hello, Chris. What do you want to say?
Hello. Basically, I don't think. I think I want him to go, but I don't think he will go because I think there's no credible candidate that's going to challenge him, and I think all the ministers around him are scared to do anything. So I honestly think he's Europe. I think he'll.
We'll start with him. I mean, they're not showing leadership, are they? The
No.
people who want to be leader.
No, as I said, if somebody had the guts to stand up to Starmer and say, "Oh, I'm challenging you for the leadership of the party as Prime Minister," nobody's doing that. They're all saying, "Oh, well, they're not going to back him and they want him to stand down as Prime Minister," but nobody's going to actually.
Why not? Why do you think they're not? Because they clearly don't think he's up to the job.
No, I honestly don't think he's up to the job, but the ministers are basically they're just scared of losing basically getting the sack, basically, because if they challenge Starmer, what's going to happen is if they lose the challenge, basically Starmer will sack them.
Oh no, they can't challenge unless they have to resign from the cabinet to actually challenge. But they need to think they'll win, and a lot of them, again, if you're Shabana Mahmood and you're apparently the Home Secretary supporting Wes Streeting for the top job, if you back him and you resign, let's face it, you're unlikely to get a job from Angie Rayner, are you?
Yes. Very unlikely, yeah.
So you think you want him to go, but basically there are no credible alternatives. If you had the choice, from the lot who are available, and we'll include Andy Burnham in that if he were an MP, who would you choose?
Well, I wouldn't have Andy Burnham, to be honest. It's hard to say, Julia, because I honestly don't know there's a credible candidate there, to be honest.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people stand. Chris, great call. Thank you very much indeed. He's pretty decisive on it, but more decisive than the Cabinet, it would appear. Sam is in Devon. Hi, Sam. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I'm going to contradict what the previous man just said. There is a credible candidate, but he's not credible to the Labour Party, and that's Al Carnes. He's a former commanding officer of the SBS.
Yeah.
One of the most decorated soldiers.
He's a defence minister at the moment. He sent some quite interesting posts on Twitter yesterday when all the shenanigans were going off and everyone was in Downing Street shouting at cabinet ministers. I hate that, by the way. And he sent out a post of the blue sky going, "Oh, what a beautiful morning." And you think, hello, what's going on here?
But the Labour Party won't go for it because he's killed people and done mean things in war, and that's the top and bottom of it. Yeah,
he doesn't have experience. He doesn't necessarily have the political experience. I mean, again, someone can look credible because they've not basically been found out for not having got anything done so far.
Why do you need the political experience based on what we've had previously?
There is that. Yes, the Tory argument that we're the ones who experienced didn't fly very well, did it?
Are you telling me he'd be any worse than what Starmer is?
You make a fair point. I think you're right. I think he's absolutely credible. I wonder if he needs a few more years to, I think, to at least be in the Cabinet. Or
a few more years.
There is that as well. Sam, very fair point. Thank you very much indeed. Just to let you know, the Prime Minister and his wife have just headed off to the state opening of Parliament to get there. Lucky for them, they've got the police outriders so they can actually get through Westminster where all the streets are closed. It's looking utterly grim, I have to say, in Westminster. Very dark clouds and miserable rain, as you can see if you're watching on our YouTube site. Absolutely grim day today. I still am fascinated by this whole bring your wife to work thing that everyone does. I mean, you, to be fair, Claire, I mean, your other half is actually Nigel Nelson, political editor of the Sunday Mirror, so you've got a good reason to be on telly together or do things. But, I mean, I'm sorry, the idea that, it's a big day at my office, just bring my husband. Don't worry about running your IT business, dear. I need you to pop and be on my arm at work today.
Exactly.
It's embarrassing.
Scrub up, put on a nice dress, and off you go.
It's supposed to be important working in the NHS and occupational therapy. Do your job. Has she taken it as holiday leave? Is she taking it sick leave? What's she been? What's the plot?
Oh, she's working from home.
Surely. She's working from home. She's totally working from home today, isn't she? Yeah. We'll say. Anyway, 10:34 is the time. Want to hear your thoughts? 0344 499 1000. Get to as many calls as we can. Up next, going to take a quick break. Then we're going to be hearing what Brendan O'Neill thinks. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 10:36 is the time. Well, the Prime Minister and his Bring His Wife to Work Day has begun. He's had a 16-minute meeting with Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary. Don't think it went that well. Definitely think espresso rather than... I mean, you couldn't have had a cup of tea. You couldn't really have let the tea brew at all, could you? For a proper, as my in-laws said, proper northern cup of tea. I could have had a cup of tea because I have it weak and southern. But, but I think otherwise we're thinking espresso for that coffee with the Prime Minister. He's now set off to the Houses of Parliament, where we're going to have state opening, of course, in about an hour's time. We'll bring that to you live. But question to you today is, will he stay or will he go? And I don't mean the King. I do mean, of course, the Prime Minister. Let's put that question to Chief Political Writer at Spiked Online, Brendan O'Neill. Good morning to you, Brendan.
Hi, Julia. How's it going?
Well, I mean, frankly, I'm having a great time. I'm very much enjoying this week. Basically, an awful lot of people in the Parliamentary Labour Party have said, Prime Minister, we don't think you're up to it. A bunch of others, some on the party payroll, the government payroll, have said, oh, no, we think he is. An awful lot of others have just gone, not saying a word, thank you very much. I'm going to see which way this goes. Do you think that the Prime Minister will fall on his sword? Do you think he will be forced to announce a timetable departure by one of the many challengers? What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, it's so hard to predict at the moment because you've got Starmer being incredibly stubborn and not just defying the kind of backstabbers in his own party, but defying the public, because he just suffered a historic shaming defeat in England, Scotland and Wales, especially Wales, where Labour has been unceremoniously unseated by the people. And yet he's staying there. He's saying, I'm not budging, I'm going to enforce the agenda anyway, when it's clearly an agenda lots of people don't want. So he's being stubborn, he's defying the public. But then on the other side, you've got these challengers to the throne who are just not very good at challenging for the throne. They're all so useless. It's so pathetic. And I actually think Wes Streeting could come out of this looking worse than Starmer, because if he's been stirring the pot for so long, but then bottles it at the end and says, oh, I better not do it, it's too scary, he will look worse than Starmer. So that's what he might have in store.
Yeah, exactly. If the main criticism we've got of Keir Starmer is he's just simply not a leader, he hasn't got the morality, the backbone, the beliefs, the credibility, the managerial skills, and nothing. He can't lead. We all know that. Everyone knows that apart from him. I have a funny feeling that Vic Starmer knows that as well. But did you say if the people who want to take over for him leading the country haven't got the leadership skills to lead their own men and women supporting them over to the top of the hill, to make that challenge, that says quite a lot.
It says an awful lot, and it really demonstrates that this is not just a Keir Starmer issue, it's a Labour issue, and in fact it's a political class issue. Where are the leaders these days? I mean, Kemi Badenoch, I think, has rediscovered her mojo and is really putting forward some good arguments in a strong way. But aside from Kemi and maybe a handful of others, there aren't great leaders.
Well, Nigel Farage, you could argue, absolutely has got lead. I mean, he rules a Reform Party with a rod of iron.
Yeah, there are some impressive people in Reform. There are some impressive people in the Tories. There are a handful of impressive people in Labour. But there is a notable dearth of those kind of inspiring political leaders we used to have in the past. The great orators, people who are able to bring you along with their argument and convince you to vote for them. We don't have many of those left. And if you look at the squabble in the Labour Party, I mean, Starmer, Streeting, Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband, who's going to go to the barricades for these people? They are not inspiring leaders, and I think it really does tell us a lot about politics itself.
And indeed, will the King's speech in just less than an hour's time? King Charles, by the way, has also just departed Buckingham Palace in the state coach to head to the Houses of Parliament, where he is going to enter the robes and the crown and then deliver alongside Camilla the King's speech. It's fascinating that yesterday apparently there were conversations between the Palace and Number 10. It's like, look, are we still going ahead with this King's speech or not? There's a lot of jokes and memes running around on social media of the King sitting there on the throne and saying, your call is on hold. It is important to us, but please bear with us because we don't know what's happening. You talk about how the country last Thursday, the local Welsh and Scottish elections, rejected the government's agenda. But I mean, has the government got an agenda? I'm just not aware of anything, even looking at what we're expected to hear in the King's speech. And rarely is there anything that's a surprise in the King's speech. Who knows? There may be something today. If it is, it'll be some mad idea, related to digital ID or something. But there doesn't seem to be anything there other than let's try and sneak us back into the EU and hope no one notices?
Yeah, that's a good point. What is the agenda that we are rising up against? I mean, the people have rejected Labour, but it's not clear quite what we're rejecting because they haven't said it out very clearly. They U-turn all the time. They say they're going to do one thing but do another. So it's like it's like having a fight with a blancmange. It just doesn't work very well. But the thing is, what we have seen from Labour, I think, has really turned people off. I mean, they screwed over lots of people economically, including, to begin with, pensioners. As you say, they want to sneak us back into the EU, which is pretty clear now. There are still lots of very solid Brexit areas in the country who don't want that. And of course, Keir Starmer has this awful habit of looking down his nose at ordinary Brits. He thinks we're all on a far-right bandwagon if we talk about the rape gang scandal, or he thinks we're all fascist monsters if we get worried about mass immigration. He has this terrible habit of sneering at the oiks, at working-class voters. And I actually think that's one of the things that's made people angriest about this government.
Well, again, people aren't stupid. We know what he thinks of us. We really, really do. But it is extraordinary that this whole manifesto for change. In this King's speech, and they've really achieved virtually nothing since they've been in office. And I accept that it takes more than 22 months to deliver a proper agenda of any sort. And this is something that Reform voters or Tory voters who want things to change next time around are going to have to get used to. Moving the British state into any action takes a long time. It's part of the problem that we've got here. But there's nothing to tackle the problems in the economy and cost of living. There's going to be nothing about getting rid of the ballooning welfare culture. Nothing about bringing down our state debt. Nothing about immigration. Nothing about net zero, which is holding us back economically hugely and increasing the cost of living for everybody. The things that actually make a difference to anyone's lives. I mean, nothing there at all.
A serious government right now would be prioritising the control of our borders because they are completely broken. And you can't be a serious nation if you can't control your borders. Yep. They would be cutting the welfare bill, which this year is predicted to be higher than what the government raises in income tax. And a nation that spends more on the workless than it gets from working people is an economic basket case. Yeah. And it would also be prioritising growing the economy, digging for oil, digging for gas, as Donald Trump has advised, and really getting back to being an energy-independent, industrious nation. Those are the three things a serious government would prioritise. Yeah. But this government doesn't believe in any of those things. It doesn't believe in growth, especially if it apparently hurts the environment. It doesn't really care about our borders. Yep. It's happy for lots of people to be skulking around and doing nothing on welfare. So that's the problem. This country needs to boot up the behind, and it's not going to get it from Labour.
Absolutely. It's certainly not going to get it from Keir Starmer. Are there any of the runners and riders? And we spent so much time on the show the last couple of days looking at, what they are. I mean, I'm not quite sure what they're offering that's any different other than, let's face it, they're going to claim they're going to raise taxes on the rich. It's going to be on actually anyone who's in a job. Woe betide if you're on 30 grand or 40 grand and you're paying basic rate tax and you think your taxes aren't going to go up. Good luck with that, everybody. But aside from more on welfare and more green madness and the like, I mean, I can't imagine what on earth they're going to offer. But are there any of the runners or riders, the Wes Streeting, Angela Rayner, Andy Burnham, if he could run, Ed Miliband, I mean, any of them that you think could actually deliver on a better agenda, a more appealing agenda to voters than Keir Starmer?
Sadly not. I really don't want to sound despairing, but I just can't see it. And that's the striking thing about this fight in the Labour Party at the moment. There aren't substantial differences between these people. They are all different shades of technocracy. They are all shades of managerialism. There's no substance. There are some interesting dynamics in Labour. I quite like Blue Labour. I'm a fan of Lord Glassman, and I think his ideas about restoring sovereignty and respecting working class communities are really important.
But Labour values.
Labour values, but the problem is no one at the top of the party is listening. And in fact, as he said recently, they're really sneering against people like him. So it looks like it will be a broken party for some time to come. I think it needs some time out of the sun. It needs to get its house in order, and then maybe it can come back.
But hold on a minute. They were out of office for 14 years.
That's true.
He was leader of the opposition for 4 years. You think he'd have a plan? As I put out on the show yesterday, I can, off the top of my head, give you 20 policies that I would want to bring in if I were Prime Minister tomorrow. Keir Starmer had 4 years to prepare, didn't have an idea about anything.
Yeah, because he was too busy trying to overthrow the largest democratic vote in the history of this country. That was his obsession for years,
Small
including
point worth making.
including when he was serving in Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet. Yeah, it's just really uninspiring. But, you know, people say our politics is broken at the moment because no prime minister is lasting out their whole term and everything's a bit chaotic. I think these are the birth pains of a new politics. I think that's what's happening.
I totally agree with you.
And that change can't come soon enough.
And people just say, no, not good enough. Next.
Yeah.
But eventually, at some point, someone's going to have to be honest with the public about you can't have all the things that everyone's been telling you can have without some costs. And people are not willing to hear that message yet. Brendan O'Neill, always so great to talk to you. Thanks so much. Chief Political Writer at Spiked Online. Claire Pistol, listening to all of that.
I think really, really interesting picking up the points about Blue Labour.
We love Lord Glassman on the show. It's great.
He's
Big fan of the
fantastic.
show.
He really is. And I shouldn't sort of big up someone like that, but I think he's really sensible. He's got some cracking ideas. And the fact that the Labour Party hate him tells you more about the Labour Party than it does with him. I think that they need to go in that direction and look at those more progressive
He gets
rules.
it.
Yeah.
He gets it. He
really
respects
does.
the voters, absolutely. By the way, I got that wrong earlier when I said I saw a big carriage leaving Buckingham Palace. That wasn't a carriage carrying the King and Queen. It was a carriage carrying the state crown. The imperial state crown. I mean, we have a carriage carrying the crown. I'm not very good. I don't think I'm ever going to get a job on the BBC commentating on major royal events. I don't think that's going to be my future. Although, to be fair, I think if I did it online, it would be quite a good fun listen. Yes. Think Joan Rivers commenting on people's outfits at the Oscars. There we are. I happily do that. The crown is on its way in the rain. Everyone is gathered in Parliament. I mean, it is actually an amazing event. I've gone and watched one in the Lord's Gallery for journalists.
Yeah.
You know, these tickets are gold dust to get in. It does go on somewhat. We'll take the actual words of the King, of course, written by the government. Are they still printed on goat skin or something? Goat parchment.
Parchment. I'm not sure. I thought that had been phased out because it wasn't.
It's not on fax paper or anything.
No, it's not. No, it's not something a little bit nicer.
No. Oh, okay, there we are then. 10:48 is the time. We'll keep you posted on what's going on. Up next, we're going to be talking to former Labour advisor Mike Buckley. What does he think is going to happen at the top reaches of the Labour Party? This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:51 is the time. We're just heading into the state opening of Parliament. We'll bring you the King speaking live. It's in about 45 minutes. He hasn't even headed off to Parliament yet. Right now, let's talk about what the hell is going on in number 10. Mike Buckley is a former Labour Party advisor and joins us now. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well indeed. Well, we had lots of fun and games, lots of people shouting at cabinet ministers coming out of that hour-long cabinet meeting yesterday where apparently the Prime Minister basically said, no, we're not talking about people wanting me to go or local election results or anything like that. No, we're just going to talk about what I want to talk about. If you want to see me afterwards privately. Wouldn't take any meetings one-on-one with people who asked yesterday, but he did have a meeting one-on-one with Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary. Many think is one of the people threatening to oust him from his job this morning. It took 16 minutes from him entering the door to leaving the door. Does not suggest to me that that was a happy meeting where they've agreed to, to differ and to carry on. What do you interpret that meeting as meaning?
I mean, I think it's hard to say because we weren't in the meeting. I wasn't in the meeting. I mean, it's fairly evident that Wes Streeting is ambitious and that he would like to be Prime Minister of the United Kingdom at some point. And there's nothing wrong with being ambitious and being in the cabinet. I mean, that's been political history throughout. Yeah. So that's all well and good and perfectly normal. I think what has been abnormal in the last few days, of course, is ministers, but also lots of MPs speaking out to say that they're not happy with the direction of travel. They want to see a change at the top. And this can be read as people being ambitious and wanting the Labour government to be better. It can also, of course, be read as disloyalty. And that isn't helpful for the government. It isn't helpful for the country. And it must be worrying for people who are just literally want to live their lives and want the government to do a good job and improve the quality of their lives.
Well, isn't that the reason why a lot of these people are speaking out, saying, well, the government's not doing that and the voters told you that last Thursday. You say it's disloyalty. Maybe it's honesty. This guy's not up to the job.
I mean, I think it's probably a mix of all those things. People are clearly concerned that Keir isn't meeting the challenges that.
Okay, so honesty. You're being loyal to the Prime Minister, basically, but you're saying that people being honest is disloyalty.
No, I'm not at all.
They're being loyal to the public who elected them, aren't they?
If people have concerns about the job the Prime Minister is doing, it's only right that they have those conversations.
So they're not being disloyal then?
No, I don't. Well, I mean,
you're the one who used the word.
It's a mix. It is. I am indeed the one that used the word. You're exactly right. I think there's a mix of things going on. There are some people who are trying to help the Prime Minister do his job better, and that is all well and good. But clearly, there's been a lot of conversations happening in the Labour Party about trying to remove the Prime Minister. That is clearly disloyal to him. Whether it's disloyal to the country is another question. Well, if the ambition is improve the quality of the government, then that is being loyal to the country. I mean, you're entirely right.
Well, do you honestly believe that this Prime Minister is capable of doing what is necessary to deliver the, quote, change, unquote, as yet unspecified, that he promised to the public 22 months ago at the general election?
I mean, I think there were a number of things going on. The government's done a lot more good for the country than I think most people realise, and that's a comms problem. Well, the Renters' Rights Bill, for example, the Workers' Rights Bill, the minimum wage going up, wage rises,
cutting jobs and cutting the number of private flats on, cutting the ability of employers to employ people, and cutting the number of landlords willing to rent out their properties will not, in the long term or even in the next year, help any of those people.
I do not argue with the fact that the government has got some things wrong. I mean, Winterfield
those were just the things that
top of that list.
You just specified 2 or 3 things that you said will help people. I've just pointed out they won't help people.
Oh, minimum wage rise does help people. I mean, it helps
apart
people
from all the job cuts.
It helps people at the bottom of the pile. There's clearly a problem with unemployment in this country, and that is in part a result of changes government's made. I think probably primarily
partly because employing people at the margins is too expensive. So
it
employers
is.
Don't do it.
I do.
So you put the cost of that up, and you think that helps people?
Putting the minimum wage up does help people, absolutely.
The people who already got a job, who need, but the margins, employers then don't employ the next person.
There is obviously an impact on people employing people. So
so it doesn't help people.
That is a problem. Well, it helps some people rather than other people.
I mean,
and I guess that's the trade-off that governments have to make. But you're right, there have been consequences. The government has paused minimum wage increases. I think that's the right thing to do. I think the bigger question is over the national insurance rise on employers, which has had more of an impact on employment, I think.
Yeah, it has, absolutely. But again, so you undermine one with the other. I mean, that's the reality is. In terms of the runners and and riders. I mean, Wes Streeting, he's had that 60-minute meeting, question marks about whether or not he is going to go over the top later today or tomorrow. And it's kind of put up or shut up moment, isn't it? But then you've got the likes of Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband on the left of the party, Andy Burnham still trying to get in, trying to get a safe seat. If such a thing exists. Do you think there is a possibility Andy Burnham can get back into Parliament? Would the Prime Minister block him through the NEC? Because let's not pretend that the NEC gets the final say. The Prime Minister says block him, he's going to be blocked. Prime Minister doesn't say block him, he's not blocked.
I think that's true. I mean, there've been different noises coming out of that from NEC members. There've been NEC members sounding a little bit more open now to giving Andy Burnham the chance to run in a by-election. So I think that is important. That's an important indication, particularly who those NEC members have been, actually. So it's not just anybody. Yeah. And Keir sounded a little bit more open to it the other day. So I wouldn't rule out Andy Burnham making his way back into Parliament. But it's still a big ask. To find an MP who wants to stand down, then to become the candidate, then to win the by-election in these current circumstances.
And have someone else who can win the mayoralty of Greater Manchester as well.
Well, there is that, and that is an expensive operation, and that's spending a lot of Labour Party money. It's also spending public money. Will the public be happy about that, or will they be angry about that use of public money to have a necessary by-election? So there are lots of big ifs and buts in this equation. If they want Andy Burnham involved in the cabinet or in government, it might be easier to put him in the House of Lords, to be quite honest. And that will be a quick way to get him around the cabinet table if that's what Keir Starmer wants to do.
Which we know is not what he wants to do. In reality, letting Andy Burnham back into Parliament would basically be putting a gun to his own head. There's no sign, certainly from what Keir Starmer's reportedly told the Cabinet yesterday, that he's going to do that.
There is little sign of that. To be honest, I would be staggered if that happened.
Okay. And would you be staggered if Wes
surprised.
Streeting launched a leadership bid tomorrow?
Less so. But he's shown no desire to go first. He seems to want to come in after somebody else has.
So does Angela Rayner, so does Ed Miliband, but someone's going to have to go first. But this is it. We're now in a stalemate where we've got, 93 MPs have said we don't think he's up to it. We know a number of members of the Cabinet don't think the Prime Minister's up to it and have told him themselves. We've got 11 trade union leaders saying that that Keir Starmer can't be representing the Labour Party as leader at the next general election. We've got 100 MPs or so backing the Prime Minister, but some of those are on the payroll. But we've got 140 plus who are just not saying anything. So it's quite clear the Prime Minister does not command, not even 2/3 of his own party's support.
He either needs to re-establish his authority.
How does he do that?
And I think fairly swiftly. By getting some of those MPs to recant what they said a few days ago about wanting him to go. I mean, I think that
I've changed my mind. He's brilliant. I've heard the King's speech.
That will be necessary.
I see the error of my ways. They're going to look like idiots.
But he would do that through action and not through words. And I think one of the key criticisms of him is that he's talked about change and he's talked about action in changing different bits of this country and making people's lives better. Those words have not been matched by action. So he needs to do that, and that may change some MPs and ministers' minds.
Yeah, I think, does anyone seriously think he's capable of doing that? I'm not sure anyone really does. I have a funny feeling, Mike, that you're not entirely convinced he does, but you're being very loyal. Former Labour Party advisor Mike Buckley, as you can hear, time is up. The music is hitting as we approach the top of the hour. Peers are gathering in the House, and also a lot standing around on the State Open of Parliament Day. The King is about to depart Buckingham Palace any moment now, and of course we'll be bringing you the King's speech live. Peter Carball's going to be in the studio with Claire Pilsel up next to discuss what we're going to hear and the runners and riders in the Labour possible leadership contest.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good morning to you. This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer, fast approaching 3 minutes past 11 o'clock. And whether you're listening on DAB+ radio or on your smart speaker, if you're watching on YouTube or your connected device, thank you so much indeed for your company. Actually, I would say if you're only listening at the moment and you can watch, do have a look at our YouTube page. We are bringing you all the pomp and the circumstance of the state opening of Parliament without the sort of very, very turgid commentary. And now the King is walking past some bloke wearing tights. We're not doing that bit. We're just going to do the relevance. We're just doing the relevant bit. But if you do miss anything, go to my YouTube page, the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. Hit subscribe. You never have to miss a thing. You've just been hearing. He's already got in. It's not even your show today. Peter Cardwell. Peter Cardwell is here, talk presenter alongside Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government advisor, to talk us through what's happening state of Parliament. Morning. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. My favourite. I actually saw this as a special advisor. I was in the gallery. I got my boss's wife's seat because she couldn't make it. Yeah. And my favourite random bit of the state opening is the Fitzalan Pursuivant Extraordinary who carries a big sword.
Quite right too. We love a man with a big sword. Do we not, ladies? Anyway, we will be taking the King's speech live. Don't worry, I say we won't bore you with the whole procession. The King is on his way. Previously, it was just a state coach that was just carrying the crowd. So his headwear is already there, and he is on his way. And we will, of course, be bringing you what the King actually has to say, which, of course, was written by the government. These are the government's words when he takes his seat on the throne. Now, what, of course, is really interesting is, because yesterday we understand that the Palace was in touch with Number 10 to go, is this King's speech even going ahead? Is the Prime Minister going to be forced to resign? He did not go yesterday. He basically told his cabinet, you know what, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. That was basically the message. Except I can't even imagine him in his, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. I don't think it would have worked. But basically he said, put up or shut up. If you've got your 81 MPs who can sign a letter saying that you support one particular contender for the job, fine, do that. But until you've done that, I'm staying now. Well, the question is, will Wes Streeting go over the top of the hill? Today he had a meeting with the Prime Minister. It lasted exactly from the moment he went in the door at Number 10 to the moment he left, 16 minutes, which does not suggest that perhaps things are going well in terms of the relationship between the Prime Minister and his Health Secretary, unless he just walked in, they both had an espresso, and they both agreed that, yes, indeed, the Prime Minister was doing a fabulous job, and Wes Streeting was absolutely going to stay loyal to him. We'll see what happens later in the day or tomorrow on that. Question I'm asking you today, of course, is will he stay or will he go? What do you think Keir Starmer will do? Because we've already seen a huge number of MPs say they don't have faith in the Prime Minister. We've got 11 trade union bosses saying he cannot be leading the Labour Party into the next general election. I don't think anyone thinks he will do that. 100 plus MPs basically on a ring round agreeing to back the Prime Minister, some of them, by the way, whose names were added without their permission. But you've got 140 plus who just staying completely silent. Nope, nothing to see here. I'm a bit busy, not answering my phone. We can only assume they are not fully supportive of the Prime Minister, in which case what does happen? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So 344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. You can also get in touch by text on 87222. You can also message us on X at talkTV. Calls are charged the national rate and text costs £1. Standard network rate message. So look, let's start with you, Peter, in terms of what we think is going to happen today. We've got the King's speech. We always know in advance pretty much what's going to be in it. Every now and then they throw in something a bit exciting. I don't think that's really where Keir Starmer is in terms of the excitement-o-meter. He ain't a man who turns up to 11. Put it that way. We're told there's going to be a big, bold offer on defence. I don't know what the hell that is. I mean, we needed to start spending on defence, 10 years ago, really. Yeah. We're told there's stuff about the relationship with Europe. That reset was going to be, a bill about getting disgraced peers out of the House of Lords, losing their peerages. I'm sorry, I don't think this is the stuff that people up and down the country are talking about, either at work or in the pub or on the phone with their friends. There's going to be nothing on welfare, nothing about immigration, nothing about net zero, nothing about the economy, the stuff that really matters.
You're absolutely right. I mean, anything on immigration is just going to bring along the already announced plans, really. Abolishing NHS England, I mean, are people really that excited about that?
But I thought they'd already done that.
They've announced it, but they haven't done anything about it yet.
But since they've announced that abolition, again, this is West Streeting, Mr. I want to leave the country. I mean, again, a lot of time for him on this. Get rid of another layer of bureaucracy. They've apparently hired about 2,000 more people since they were told they were being abolished.
Yes.
That does not suggest to me they're taking that threat seriously.
Energy independence bill, leasehold reform bill. We keep being told leasehold's been reformed. It hasn't. Nationalising British Steel. I mean, I just don't think too many people are going to be excited about that.
Would you work for British Steel? No. Not my issue.
Yes, exactly. Jury trials as well, Hillsborough law, stuff about Northern Ireland legacy prosecutions, big story for us, of course, on this station, and votes at 16. I mean, we'll hear 35 different pieces of legislation announced today by the King. No massive surprises. And then, of course, we get into the debating of this over the next few days.
And that goes on for the next few days. And we understand from the SNP, the Scottish National Party, they want to put in an amendment which would basically force a vote on the Prime Minister's future as part of that. Claire Pistler, we were talking earlier, you work in Parliament. You love this stuff. She honestly, she sleeps, breathes, eats this stuff. Absolutely loves it. We're very touched that you agreed to be here today instead of in Parliament watching it live. I mean, normally we'd be talking about the King's speech from Sunday papers would have been full of it. And Monday's papers and Tuesday's papers, and we'd be discussing it all. There's just no real substance in here. I'd be very surprised. I mean, I'm happy to be proved wrong. It would be lovely if I was proved wrong. Sorry, I was rather distracted then by David Lammy in a rather large wig as Justice Secretary, Lord Chancellor. It's not a look. It's not a look.
Then again, if you're David Lammy and you have the chance to have hair, I mean, maybe you take it.
You can rock it. Yeah.
Bit harsh.
Harsh but fair, like the Hungarian police.
but I mean, there's the King's speech, just like the Prime Minister's reset speech on Monday. What was that? His 20th reset speech. It's not going to save the Prime Minister's skin, is it?
Well, it isn't, and that's the problem. Is that he's come into government saying we're going to change everything. Change. That was the word of 2024. But change what? And that's what he can't articulate.
But the manifesto barely specified a thing.
No, I mean, who reads the manifestos?
True.
Because the public don't. We do, in part, little bits of it, the headline facts, but there's nothing to say this is what a Keir Starmer government looks like, this is what they want to achieve, because everything they put forward to achieve they find is unpopular and they U-turn on it.
Yeah.
So
and most of the stuff they put forward like that with all of those wasn't in the manifesto.
Well, absolutely. And so they hang their hat on something that they didn't actually go to the country with, find out that people don't like it, go back, water it down and try again the next week.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, Peter Caldwell. There's just no evidence this Prime Minister has the judgment, the vision, the leadership skills and the management skills and inspires the loyalty from his party that he can deliver on this.
Oh, that's totally correct.
Yeah, he's a dead man walking, dead man crawling.
And when you ask, as we both often have, government ministers, what have you achieved? What have you got to show for the last 2 years? And then they start wanging on about breakfast clubs. I mean, just please
technical
stop.
Term, please, technical parliamentary term.
Please tell us what you've actually done. There's a lot of saying we inherited this, we inherited that. Yeah. They didn't inherit the Madison mess. No. That is, I would argue, the number one thing that has led us to this point. And here we are with a health secretary who's on manoeuvres, definitely. You've got an energy secretary on manoeuvres. You've got a former deputy prime minister on manoeuvres. King of the North, Andy Burnham, the most significant king today, even more so than Charles.
Well, he was on manoeuvres all the way to Euston yesterday.
Exactly, yeah. Euston,
the only thing standing between him and the leadership was the Avanti main line. A timetable.
Wi-Fi. Euston, we have a problem. Yes. So he's there as well, was here in London too. So no, Keir Starmer, from every direction, he's running out of allies. He's trying to put allies in the health department, like Preet Gill, for example, this new minister.
Basically putting in a bunch of ministers who are going to make life difficult for West Streeting and spy on him. That's
exactly what's happening. Boris Johnson did that as well. He did that with ministers. He did that with special advisors to try to spy on people who were difficult, like Matt Hancock. That's exactly the strategy that Keir Starmer is adopting. I don't think it's going to work.
That is really clear. That's circling the wagons territory. 22 months into his leadership.
Yeah, and as we've seen from Boris Johnson, it rarely ends well. When you've got people who are plotting against you openly, you've got backbenchers in disarray, different factions saying, well, what are you going to do to us, because we're not ministers anyway, so we can do what we like. So any authority that you have has gone right downhill. and he's just going to limp on and not be able to get much of this legislation through.
And this is the thing. Well, except, of course, he's a majority of 170.
But
he can get anything through. I mean, again, I thought what really annoyed me about Boris Johnson, how little he got done. Some of the stuff he did was just appalling on, on net zero, on immigration. Yeah. But actually, he had a massive majority of 80. You can get stuff done. The idea that you can't get anything done with those sort of majorities. If you have a vision and you can take the country with you and or you can just take your own party with you.
That's the problem. He doesn't have that because he doesn't have that vision. So anything that he puts forward that a group of backbenchers don't like and they shout loud enough, he then backtracks on it, and they know that he has.
They've done it already. Yeah.
So therefore, there's the weakness.
That's why there's nothing on welfare, and again we've got people sort of wanting to, some vaguely sensible noises being made by the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood on immigration, none of which I think will actually make any difference in the big scheme of things, but at least going in the right direction. And what, by all accounts, one of the demands of Angela Rayner would be Shabana Mahmood has to go. For one reason, we understand she is supporting Wes Streeting behind the scenes. Is it tenable for this to carry on, though, Peter Cartwright?
No, absolutely not. And once you have that real spectre, I mean, there's always speculation about when will a Prime Minister go, how long will they stay.
But not 22, no
not
one 22 months into Blair's leadership or Cameron's leadership was going, when's he going to go?
Well, it's 22 days into Liz Truss's leadership, but yes, it's true that you're there. And once you get to that stage, there's no way to get back. Once you've lost authority, once you've lost trust, you can't get it back, and he is fatally wounded. So the question is when, I think, rather than if.
And there is that argument, isn't there? I mean, we definitely, if you've never seen the thick of it,
documentary.
It's virtually a documentary, isn't it? It's one of the best satires of modern times. It's the Yes Prime Minister, the Yes Minister of our time, and genuinely there's a clip. There's a little clip for every single occasion. There's an argument. Go early while people still think you are hard done by. We can blame the right-wing media. Go while people have some semblance of respect. It's clearly saying I'll be dragged out, basically, screaming, my nails holding on to the door of number 10. Do you think, Claire, that there is going to be a bit of courage shown by the likes of Wes Streeting or anyone else? Looks like no one wants to be the first. No one wants to be the first. Do you think that he is going to mount a challenge? Today, tomorrow, this week, next week?
I don't feel that he's going to.
I think that, and if he doesn't go first, no one else will?
Absolutely. Now, it could all depend upon what happened in the 16-minute meeting this morning, because if that was a case of the Prime Minister saying, I'm going to sack you, but I'm not doing it today because the King's in town, then I think we're in a different territory, because that was such a short meeting.
Then he's got no choice.
Then he's got no choice, and it's either you go for it now or you've bust everything.
I can't see how that meeting, Peter, was anything other than, hello, I'm Wes Streeting, I don't have any faith in your Prime Minister, I think you should go. And the Prime Minister going, I ain't going, put up or shut up.
Yeah.
And I'll put my teacup or my coffee cup down and I'll leave.
Totally correct. And the fact is they will have kept him waiting. They'll have done the power move of keeping him waiting in a waiting room for the Prime Minister.
How very Putin.
The actual meeting will only take a few minutes, and it'll be really straightforward. It'll have been really tense. No love lost between the two men, and everybody knows what Wes Streeting is up to.
But this is put up or shut up time. I mean, there's no question at all that he's now or never. Now, literally as we're talking, just had handed to me a report in the Times that Wes Streeting has told his allies that he is preparing to resign and trigger a leadership contest as soon as tomorrow. We're told he did confront Keir Starmer this morning in that meeting. Allies who've spoken to him directly to Wes Streeting have said he made it clear he's going to go for it. He will resign on Thursday, mount a formal challenge for the leadership. One ally said he is going to go for it. He is going tomorrow. So they claim that by allies of Starmer's are the ones who are saying he's bottled it, they're wide of the mark, and he's going to make that bid for leadership. There is an element where, Claire, he hasn't got a choice now. If he doesn't, he's just embarrassed himself.
Yeah, this is his moment. If he chooses not to take it, then he's just resigned to the backbenches for a long time to come. So he's got to do it now or never.
So Peter, Wes Streeting goes for it tomorrow, it would appear, unless something else changes. He goes for it. He gets his 81 names. The leadership ballots announced. At that point, we're going to have another candidate from the side. Now, the whole point of going early and going quickly is that you get a leadership contest before Andy Burnham can find someone to stand down, have a safe seat, run for election, win it, if there is such thing as a safe seat, and get back into Parliament. So that leaves Andy Burnham out. Angela Rayner has made it clear that she would run if Andy Burnham couldn't. She, even though she's tainted with this not paying our stamp duty issue, Ed Miliband will run alongside or not for it. There is definitely a move. It's that Wes Streeting is seen as on the right of the party. It's still far too left-wing for most people in the country, and the others are all candidates on the left. Do you think they will coalesce? And with that bunch of people running, I mean, who knows? Do we get Al-Khans? Do we get, others?
There'll definitely be a Stop Wes candidate of some description. It's a matter, I think,
But they'll win. Any candidate on the left will win.
I think it's Angela Rayner having discussions with Ed Miliband, seeing what happens with Andy Burnham, what can happen within the contest, who can enter when. There's also the question, I mean, this is probably for the birds, but if Keir Starmer has all this support, if he has over 100 MPs signing these pledges of loyalty to him, does he run?
Well, Keir Starmer automatically is in the ballot.
Yes.
So
but does he decide to run or
we
withdraw
know that,
from
don't
it?
we? Yeah. Indeed. By the way, just talking of this, the King and Queen have actually, well, the Queen certainly has arrived at the House of Lords at Westminster. They arrive at the Lords side, looking, I must say, very glamorous indeed.
Yeah,
she is a
absolutely.
very,
She wears it well.
She does wear it well. I mean, me, I'm not one for these things, but she does. She looks the part. She really does. So that is happening. So just to bring you back to what's happening, the shenanigans around the House of Commons, bearing in mind, of course, that we will have that wonderful moment where Blackrod, bangs on the door of the House of Commons, the doors are shut, the King has to request the presence of the Prime Minister and MPs, and then they all get up, and then you have the Prime Minister walking with the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch, who will be loving it today. All these party leaders, they walk behind each other, having to make polite conversation, walking very, very, very slowly behind the Commons Speaker, and then, of course, standing at the bar of the House of Lords, watching this and listening to this. I mean, this is going to be very, very interesting to watch. The body language. You'll have
lots of body language experts, and what do they talk about? They often talk about their children, which is about the most neutral, safest thing you can do. But the thing I love about the State of Parliament, I've seen two of them up close, is how we've done basically exactly the same thing for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
I love it.
It's marvellously absurd. It's brilliant. It's what this country does best. But at the same time, you have this kind of pomp and ceremony, but you also have this high drama of exactly what's going on. And you've, a very, very sort of nice discussion between Badenoch and Starmer about their kids, and then later on today they're going to tear strips out of one another.
Absolutely, and we do have that debate afterwards. And there's quite a few quite funny, light speeches as well. Those are often the most fun speeches, actually. Do you know who's making those speeches?
No, I don't. And that's going to be the really interesting part. So it'll be two speeches from the government side. Yeah. So we need to watch very carefully as to who is picked to do those, because I think that will give you an idea of where the support for the Prime Minister is and what he's hoping to achieve. Well,
he's got Darren Jones. Everyone knows he's got Darren Jones. He's the minister.
His
he's wheeled out.
Yes, exactly. Very, very lucky for him.
I mean, the thing is, there are a lot of people who are saying, and a lot of our callers make this point, I mean, because they're much more sensible about these things than most of the Westminster bubble journalists, as you know, basically saying, do we want to be careful what we wish for? Because, what are the alternatives to... I mean, Keir Starmer's useless. He's rubbish. He's a dead man walking. But the alternatives are even worse. Now, I don't know with Wes Streeting. I like the guy. I think he's the sane one among a lot of them. But, I mean, got some big issues with him on lots of things. I don't know whether, is he going to be able to deliver? I don't think he can take the party with him. That, Labour Party is made up of left-wing activists who are going to vote for the left-wing candidate, in which case you are looking at ending up with, were Burnham to be able to run Burnham, otherwise you're looking at Angela Rayner as Prime Minister or Ed Miliband as Prime Minister, or at the very least as Chancellor. I mean, this is going to be my very, very thought through, considered commentary on that prospect. Oh my God! I mean, seriously.
If Ed Miliband becomes Prime Minister of this country, or indeed Chancellor of the Exchequer, we can all just go home. I mean...
we can sell our homes very quickly before the market collapses and move abroad.
It's absurd. It would just be utterly absurd to have, especially Ed Miliband in one of those positions.
Claire?
Yeah, I mean, it's
no, that's all we needed.
Just that sound.
Just frightening. It really is. Either of those two people on the world stage representing this country.
Yeah, I mean, Ed Miliband has already been rejected by the British people in 2015.
And the Labour Party twice.
And exactly. So is Andy Burnham.
Yes.
To be fair. What a choice, people. God, we're one of the greatest countries in the world. We really are. And this is it. These are the options, people. These are the options. Just consider that. 11:21 is the time. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be going live, of course, to the King when he does speak in the House of Lords today for the state opening of Parliament. This is Talk. Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
As something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 11:24 is the time. This is Talk. Claire Pistol is with me. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer, and Peter Cardwell, fellow presenter, is here. I'd like to point out, before we get to your calls, you've just had a message from someone who thinks that we don't like you. Well, yes. I don't like you.
Shall I read it out?
Well, yes,
it's short.
It's a bit harsh.
I don't think Julia Hartley-Brewer likes Peter Cardwell. You can smell it when behind the scenes they backstab each other to be king or queen of talk. Maybe I'm wrong, but not often.
Not often. I hate to tell you are wrong. We get on annoyingly well.
I'm afraid we do. And I'm under no illusion that there's only one queen of talkTV.
Please,
Empress.
Can
Duchess.
everyone stop demoting me? Empress. Oh dear, I love that. Anyway, look, loads of messages coming. Oh my God, did you think that? Honestly. I treat him nicer than my husband. I quite like him. Lots of you getting in touch. I'm asking. I'm going to read some question. Will he stay or will he go? I don't mean the king. He's definitely coming. He is getting the crown on, getting all the state finery on. He's staying. And he's going to be delivering the king's speech. It's going to start probably in about 10 minutes or so. We'll take that live, I promise. But I want to know, what do you think about Keir Starmer? Will he stay or will he go? 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Let me get some of your text message before we get those calls up. Viv says he won't go. He's okay. Can't read that. He's the brown thing in the toilet that won't flush. Can someone edit these things before you give them to me? Christine says, how can we have a functioning government with all this division and turmoil? Joe says, he'll cling on until he's dragged out. He doesn't understand personal accountability. Nick says it's largely irrelevant. Whoever comes in will be as bad as, if not worse. Nick says, of course he won't go. It's everybody else's fault, and he's the only person who can save the situation, according to the voices in his head. I think imagine around the breakfast table as well. Jim says he has to go before he does any more damage, and Leo says he seems happy when the country is on its knees, and Ben says he should have never been in this position in the first place. Totally incompetent. Let's go to your phone calls right now. Peter is on the line from Buckinghamshire. Good morning to you, Peter.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, yeah. What do you want to say?
Right, I really worry that we're going to get Starmer out.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, he can't even stop the bloody rubber boats coming across the channel. I mean, you know, he is absolutely useless. But, and I'm going to come from this from a slightly different angle. You say he doesn't have the support of the Labour Party. He never has. If we go back, there's always been two parties within that party, the Red Labour Party and the Blue Labour Party.
Yep.
And they, previous to him being elected, they hated his guts. They absolutely hated him. Now, they were very quiet through the election. They sat there silently. He got them this big majority. Okay, it wasn't anything he did. It was basically because of Boris. But he got them that big majority. They've been sitting quietly. Now they're itching to grab that majority and use it to say, we're now representing the far left of Labour, and this is what we really need in the country, blah, blah, blah. And I dread the thought of us shouting for joy when he goes and saying, yeah, he's gone, great, great, great. And then you're talking the next day about, oh, my God, we've got that Ed Miliband leading the country.
Yeah.
And look what he's doing with net zero. He's destroying the economy, etc. I hope he stays because he'll be easily beaten.
Yeah. No, that is a fair point. That really is. Thank you for that, Peter. Appreciate that. Let's go to John in Dorset. John, just to let you know, we've got the King and the Queen being part of that big procession through Parliament to head to the King's speech. We will go to that live as soon as we have the King in situ, and obviously the Prime Minister and others from Commons joining the peers in the House of Lords, and to hear the King's speech. We'll take that live. But John, what do you want to say in terms of will the Prime Minister stay or go?
It doesn't make any difference. He's going to be succeeded, if we're to believe it, by a bunch of fiscally illiterate ideologues, and they haven't got an idea amongst them. I mean, Andy Burnham, who's had a sort of Damascene conversion about the bond market. He should look at the figures today. And Andy Burnham, I was a practicing nurse when the mid-staffs occurred. He was the most useless, ineffective health minister, and he ended up backing health people who were smearing relatives, who
were covering up a major scandal. Yeah,
he's just a gutless wonder. And I think the final thing that will favour Starmer, he's seen a succession of his cabinet people send their junior ministers to the House when it's unpopular. He's ducked out of as many, it's called a company of cowards, and he's the biggest coward of the lot, but he knows enough. He's the Flashman of politics.
You're not impressed. I think we can safely say not impressed. Thank you very much indeed for those calls. Claire and Peter watching, of course. The King is now just arrived on the throne in the House of Lords, joined by Queen Camilla as well. All of the state, pomp and circumstance is there. And of course, from this point, then we will see Blackwell going, knocking on the door of the House of Commons to request their presence to hear the King's speech. Interestingly, just to let you know, Robert Jenrick, who's Reform's Treasury spokesman, he has said the King's speech was now a pantomime. After news that we've just been revealing with the Times exclusive that Wes Streeting is preparing to resign tomorrow. Robert Jenrick has said the King is about to announce the government's legislative agenda. Meanwhile, the Health Secretary has told the press the government is over. The King's speech is now a pantomime. Now, Wes Streeting has said, his spokesman has said, Wes is the Health Secretary, is proud of his record of falling waiting lists and recovering NHS. He's not planning to say anything following the meeting with the Prime Minister that might distract from the King's speech. That's just today, isn't it, Peter?
Yes, indeed. Wes is the Health Secretary. Really good that a spokesman knows that. In terms of this being a pantomime, it is very much the case of Keir Starmer. He's behind you with a big knife, about to plunge it into your back, metaphorically, of course, when it comes to Wes Streeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Claire Pistol, I mean, there's no doubt at all now, really. He's got to put up or shut up. He's got to go for it. He's obviously said to the Prime Minister, that's what I'm going to do, but I'll wait until after until after the King's speech. Of course, no PMQs to speak, obviously. It's very, very obvious that both men are going to dig in. The question is, what happens next?
And it's going to be a sort of a fashion show of candidates, I think we're going to get. But we need Wes Streeting to come out there and actually say what it is he wants to do, because at the moment...
This is a good point.
Yeah.
We don't know that yet. We don't know what it is he stands for. So unless he's going to do that pretty promptly in the next 24 hours...
He is like Burnham, there's no doubt at all that Wes Streeting is a much better communicator. He does talk human. When he was accused of sort of, bad mouthing the Prime Minister, he probably was, who we kidding, by some allies of Keir Starmer some months back, he went out on the media round the next day and basically, what was it, joking about the moon landings and things like that. Yeah. He's able to do that. I've no doubt at all that he would be better than Keir Starmer. I think he's the only candidate I would trust would be better. But how much better do they need to be? By the way, just to let you know, Blackrod has knocked on the door of the House of Commons, and we're now seeing all the party leaders and followed by MPs leaving the Commons chamber. If you're watching on our YouTube page, you can see this live, and they are joining the peers in the House of Lords to hear the King's speech. Now, it's always fascinating to see the little chats that they have when you've got the Commons Speaker leading the way in all his finery. That's Sir Lindsay Hoyle, of course. And then, of course, you have, in terms of the politicians who are walking first, you've got the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, joined alongside by Kemi Badenoch. And, of course, behind them, you're wondering why Diana is there. Is the Queen, the mother of the house, and, of course, the father of the house. Who's the father?
Edward Lee.
Edward Lee. So the basically longest-serving members of Parliament. But Kivisa Carball, you were saying that when you see, we've got these pictures just in front of Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer. Kemi's doing a lot of the talking.
Yes,
to be fair,
thick smiles,
what they chat about.
Wonderful. I can think of nothing better to do than chatting to Kemi Badenoch, says Keir Starmer. They usually talk about their children or something to do with their families, how their families getting on. Really neutral topics.
Just keep it neutral and happy.
Rather than the question she wants to ask, which was, how was the meeting with Wes?
Well, indeed, because not only are the cameras on them now, we've actually got Wes Streeting. He's queuing up alongside with other ministers and shadow ministers, alongside James Cleverly. What is he, Shadow Home now? I lose track.
Shadow Housing.
Shadow Housing. They all move around so much. And also, interestingly, Darren Jones, who's been in the Cabinet Office, Chief Secretary there, very big, very, very big Starmer loyalist. Let's talk about him running.
Keir Starmer's representative on Earth.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just a lot of general awkward moments for a lot of these would-be candidates. There's a lot of plotting, there's a lot going on. Yeah, I would imagine certainly with the two main party leaders, they're chit-chatting. They know that they're lip readers.
Yes.
Yes. Everybody.
And body language experts, and everybody wants to know what they're talking about, so they'll keep it as neutral and as straightforward as possible.
Well, indeed. I mean, again, it's all going to be a little bit uncomfortable. There's no doubt at all about that when they get back into the chamber afterwards and then they go for it. But, I mean, Wes Streeting, I thought, was looking a little bit sheepish.
He did. He looked as if he'd rather be absolutely anywhere else. He didn't want the gaze upon him. I think James Cleverly was trying to sort of chat to him nicely, and Wes was looking off in the opposite direction. He's a man who is not happy.
He was also standing behind Darren Jones. I don't think the two of them are going to be going on a spa weekend anytime soon.
Darren Jones is like, you might get me out of a job. No one else is going to avoid me.
I don't think Darren Jones is going to be in that cabinet.
Right. Well, right now we've got the Lord Chancellor, that is David Lammy, looking fabulous in his stockings and finery and his big grey wig. It's just handed the speech to the King. Of course, although it's the King reading out the speech, it is, of course, the words of the government. This is, His Majesty's government rather than the Prime Minister's government. Let's go live to the House of Lords.
An increasingly dangerous and volatile world threatens the United Kingdom, with the conflict in the Middle East only the most recent example. Every element of the nation's energy, defence and economic security will be tested. My government will respond to this world with strength and aim to create a country that is fair for all. My ministers will take decisions that protect the energy, defence and economic security of the United Kingdom for the long term. They will defend the British values of decency, tolerance and respect for difference under our common flag. And they will harness the potential of the pride felt across this country for its communities. My government will take urgent action to tackle anti-Semitism and ensure all communities feel safe. My government believes that the United Kingdom's economic security depends on raising living standards in every part of the United Kingdom. My ministers will support measures that maintain stability and control the cost of living. They will use public investment to shape markets and attract further private investment. They will deploy the power of an active state in partnership with business and enable reforms that support higher growth and a fair deal for working people. My government believes that improved trading relations are vital for the United Kingdom's economic security, for significantly raising economic growth and for lowering prices for working people. My ministers will introduce legislation to take advantage of new trading opportunities, including a bill to strengthen ties with the European Union. My government will also support the economic security of British businesses. Legislation will be introduced to tackle late payments and to reduce the burden of unnecessary regulation through innovation. The United Kingdom's economic security depends upon world-class infrastructure. Legislation will be introduced to unlock the benefits of airport expansion, enable roads to be built at pace, including the Lower Thames crossing, and deliver a fair deal for the north of England through Northern Powerhouse Rail. My ministers will continue to take all action necessary to safeguard the domestic production of steel. My government will also improve the United Kingdom's security by continuing to invest in the renewal of public services. My ministers will push forward with significant reforms to the police, the National Health Service, and to the criminal justice system to help them deliver services the British people expect. Legislation will be introduced to increase confidence in the security of the immigration and asylum systems. My government will improve critical infrastructure with legislation to clean up the water industry and establish Great British Railways. My government believes that the United Kingdom should be a country fair for all and a place where every child is included in the nation's highest aspirations. My ministers believe that every child deserves the chance to succeed to the best of his or her ability and not be held back due to poverty, special educational needs, or a lack of respect for vocational education. My ministers will continue to invest in apprenticeships and measures that tackle youth unemployment. They will respond to the Milburn Review and the Timms Review and continue to reform the welfare system to support both young and disabled people to flourish in work as the basis for long-term economic security. A bill will be brought forward to raise standards in schools and introduce generational reforms of the special educational needs system. My ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID that will modernize how citizens interact with public services. Alongside strong public services and a strong economy, the highest standards of trust in public office are essential for the social contract and the United Kingdom's collective security. My government will introduce the Hillsborough Law to bring forward a duty of candour for public servants. My ministers will also introduce legislation to enable peerages to be removed. My government will bring forward proposals that strengthen the delivery, accountability, innovation, and productivity of the civil service. These proposals will also seek to safeguard its impartiality and core values to enhance trust and confidence in the institutions of government. My government will bring forward a bill to speed up remediation for people living in homes with unsafe cladding and a draft bill to ban abusive conversion practices. In this volatile world, my government will continue to pursue foreign policy based on a calm assessment of the national interest. It will continue its unflinching support for the brave people of Ukraine who fight on the front line of freedom. My ministers will seek to improve relations with European partners as a vital step in strengthening European security. It will continue to promote long-term peace in the Middle East and the two-state solution in Israel and Palestine. My government will also uphold the United Kingdom's unbreakable commitment to NATO and our NATO allies, including through a sustained increase in defence spending. My government will seek to reinforce the long-term energy, defence and economic security of the United Kingdom as an essential component of strength on the world stage. This will include housing, which can be a source of insecurity for many people. My ministers will bring forward legislation to increase long-term investment in social housing and to reform the leasehold system, including the capping of ground rents. My government will introduce legislation to tackle the growing threat from foreign state entities and their proxies. They will respond to the horrific attack in Southport with measures to protect the British people from extreme violence and honour the victims, the injured and their families. My ministers will also introduce legislation to improve the country's defences against cybersecurity threats. My government will support our gallant armed forces and their families who make considerable personal sacrifices for the collective security and freedom of everyone in the United Kingdom. My ministers will recognise this service with an armed forces bill that improves the service justice system and establishes the Armed Forces Covenant in statute. My ministers believe that energy independence must be a long-term goal of national security and that the nation's energy security requires long-term investment and reform, as demonstrated by recent events in the Middle East. Increased production of clean British energy will help to ensure that enemies of the United Kingdom cannot attack the economic security of the British people. My ministers will therefore introduce an energy independence bill to scale up homegrown renewable energy and protect living standards for the long term. My ministers will also take forward recommendations of the nuclear regulatory review and encourage a new era of British nuclear energy generation. My government will remain a leading advocate for tackling climate change and achieving a world free from poverty. The United Kingdom will also take action to reduce humanitarian need and conflict around the world. My ministers will champion the rights of women and girls to live in a world free from violence. This will include promoting women's full economic and political participation within their societies, with agency over the decisions that impact their lives. Next year, the United Kingdom will take on the G20 presidency and host the G20 summit to drive global growth and reinforce global stability, which is essential for the prosperity of working people across the country. My government is committed to the strength and integrity of the Union of the United Kingdom and will continue to work closely with the devolved governments to deliver for citizens across the whole of the nation. Members of the House of Commons, estimates for the public services will be laid before you. My Lords and members of the House of Commons, other measures will be laid before you. I pray that the blessing of Almighty God may rest upon your councils.
Right, well, that is the end of the King's speech. I don't think there was anything there, Peter Cardwell, that was new, that was a surprise.
No real surprises. No, nothing that I picked up.
Moving on. Let's go to a break. No, no, but really, that's the thing with King speeches is we usually have an idea. It's the stuff that the government's announcing. We're going to bring this in, and this is the next legislative plan for the next Parliament. Here's the issue, of course, here, Claire Pearson, is that we're going to have expected a leadership challenge from Wes Streeting. His allies have put out after this meeting, 60-minute meeting he had with the Prime Minister this morning, that he is going to challenge the Prime Minister tomorrow. He is going to launch, presumably has to resign to launch that leadership bid. And at that point, all bets are off. And there's a lot of talk about this being sort of rather a pointless affair. No wonder Number 10 were getting calls from Buckingham Palace officials yesterday saying, are we actually going ahead with the state opening? This was after, by the way, the roads were already closed and all the preparations were made all around Westminster for this event to happen, because the Prime Minister has given a speech to the King to read, and no one's entirely sure whether the Prime Minister is going to survive, let alone a full term in office, but even the next legislative period.
Well, that's right. I think the King was worried about being used as a political pawn in this particular game. So Buckingham Palace would have looked for reassurance. But as we've just heard, there is nothing specific in that. There's a lot of aims and ambitions, and this is an era of. There is nothing concrete. So anybody can come in and pretty much take that over and make it their own. So I don't think this was particularly anything that the King needed to worry about.
Again, there was nothing in there that's going to excite the public and go, what were we thinking last Thursday, voting for an alternative party of any sort or not voting at all? Now I know what you're planning to do, that they're going to feel differently. I'd have to point out also that a lot of people are pointing out that, although you see a lot of peers crowded into the House Lords, and it's absurd thing, they've got seats. But the MPs, the ones who matter, the lower house, of course, have to stand at the bar and listen. But actually, that was not a very crowded House of Lords, and indeed, at one point, peers were basically asked by the ushers to spread themselves out. Now, normally, you can't get a seat in there for love or money. The reason why they get there so early is you're not going to get a seat otherwise. Claire, you've been in there, you've watched a number of them, and there's a lot of members of the public. If you've got the footage now, we've got on the screen of the King and the Queen leaving in the procession back, and those are people. Those will be local representatives. There'll be family members of MPs, staff, and the like.
Ambassadors.
But again, the great and the good, and they'll turn out for an event like this. It's a big state occasion. But in terms of peers turning out, why were all the peers not there?
Do you think that because there's been so much argument about reform of the House of Lords, the hereditary peers have now been stripped of that and been hoofed out unceremonially, and the rest of them are now going to be looking at what is going to happen, what are their plans for Lords reform?
There we are. Well, look, let's take a quick break. We're about to have more conversation. We'll take more of your calls as well about, what is going on. Basically, the subtext to all of this pomp and circumstances is, a King's speech delivering an agenda for legislation for a Prime Minister who may very well not be Prime Minister in a few weeks, months, or even days' time. This is Talk. Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk. Welcome back to the show. 11:54 is time. Well, we've had the King's speech, but let's face it, there wasn't much people paying much attention to what the King was saying, with all due respect to His Majesty, because everyone knows actually what's going on behind the scenes. So it'll have a lot more impact on what is actually going to happen in this country and what's going to happen with this government than this statement of future legislation that the current Prime Minister, I'm going to call him that, wants to deliver. Now, we saw Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, go into the House of Commons, into number 10 today. He was there 16 minutes talking to the Prime Minister. By all accounts, according to his allies, what's been briefed to the press, he did tell the Prime Minister that he was planning to launch a leadership bid tomorrow, not on today, because of the King's speech. He was seen grinning quite happily beside the Speaker's chair in the Commons before MPs headed into the House of Lords to hear that speech. He has just posted on X in the last few moments, Wes Streeting, under Labour, NHS waiting lists are falling, ambulances are arriving faster, there are more GPs and higher patient satisfaction. I mean, with all due respect, Wes, he's talking from a very, very low level. He says, lots done, lots to do. The health bill will boost the impact of our investment and modernisation, cutting bureaucracy to invest in patient care. Well, that's all very well. Peter Carble, who's still joining me, and Claire Pearsall, he's just talking about the day job, and that's what people would expect him to get on and do. But I mean, will he have achieved enough in that front that he can say, hey, I'm one of the few ministers in government who's actually got something done that I said I'd get done. Vote for me for Labour leader. Also, no mention of under Keir Starmer's amazing leadership. That is good point. Missing from there. It's always what they say, but also what they don't say. Yes, exactly. So Wes Streeting getting out there, people will. It's interesting actually. His legislative agenda, his own legislative agenda with the health bill, he will get and has already got attention on this as a result. And he will say tomorrow, he wants to do things like health reform. He wants to people to focus on the policy, and that's why you need new leadership. So that'll be interesting. By the way, everyone talks about wanting health reform. The big health reform we need to move to the system that is used in virtually every other Western nation. Not America. Their system's up the spout and costs 10 times as much. But the system that costs pretty much the same rest of the world, which is this basically this sort of social insurance system where people get much better care and live longer as a result. Are you saying the NHS isn't the envy of the world? Is that what you're saying? Well, I'm thinking if it was the envy of the world, one other country other than Cuba might have copied it. But they've chosen not to. No, exactly. But that was Wes Streeting laying out, here is what I've done, here is my legacy to take forward onto the world stage as your Prime Minister. That's what he was doing. He's also just putting, I think, the feelers out for whoever wants to be Health Secretary next. Let's see who retweets him. Let's see who likes it. And who comments. It's so pathetically... Yes, it's I feel like sometimes we're in a sort of a girls' boarding school. Well, the best one, did you see the BBC correspondent who said Peter Kyle, the business secretary, is Wes Streeting's best friend in politics? They went to see The Devil Wears Prada 2 at the weekend. I think you'll find that reporter said that he couldn't possibly have been plotting because he'd been at the cinema with watching The Devil Wears Prada, and that wasn't the sort of thing you would do if you were plotting to take over. We're the ones who need the popcorn tomorrow, Julia. I mean... Yeah, absolutely. It really is extraordinary. And I mean, again, all eyes on what could happen to the Prime Minister as opposed to what's going to happen here. Now, here's the thing. There just wasn't anything in there, even the stuff that's quite important. That's going to be, OK, it's digital ID for public services. Yeah, sorry, mate, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to back down on that. The public don't want that. A bill to tackle gay conversion therapy. Literally not a thing. The only conversion therapy that's happening in this country is trans conversion therapy, where young, confused people with autism and who've been sexually abused and are being told that there's something wrong with them and they're born in the wrong body and they think and they're actually the opposite sex. they're tackling problems that aren't problems.
No, I'd rather hear a bit more about what education reforms are going to come in. What exactly is the health bill there to do, and where is the money coming from defence? Now, I appreciate that the King isn't going to lay out all of those details, and he isn't expected to.
I don't think the government's going to lay out any of those details.
No, they're not.
Because there isn't any money. There isn't any money, because right now we are spending more money on servicing our debt because of all these shenanigans. Now, is there an argument against all these sort of leadership shenanigans? Because, I mean, it's a point a lot of Starmer allies have been putting out this week, is that our cost of borrowing has gone up because the bond yield has gone up. It was already way above, you know, France or even Greece. For basket case countries like Greece are paying less for their debt than we are, but it's already gone up as a result of that, and as a result of the fact that there's all this political uncertainty and the prospect that some of the runners and riders are people who don't understand how bond markets work.
But on the flip side of it, are we just expected to keep the status quo, as Keir Starmer kept saying, with him just because we don't want to upset anything else further along the line? Are we having to deal with what we have for the next 5 or even 10 years, as Keir Starmer likes to think, rather than looking at other contenders? I don't want to be in that position either.
Exactly. Look, the reality is, no one thinks that Keir Starmer is going to still be in the job, I think, even by the end of the year. Certainly not running in the next election, even Labour-affiliated unions. I mean, it's just a question of when he goes, in which case, actually, you're better off getting this over and done quickly if you're the Labour Party, aren't you?
Completely. It's a question of whether they can or not, because they've got to consult so many people, have hustings, and then have the contest. Be fascinating to see what happens in the next few days.
Can't even do that right, mind you, now because of the Tories. I mean, your lot just as bad. I mean, seriously, one of the greatest countries in the world, the great British people, and we're led by donkeys, quite literally. We are. Big thanks to Peter Cobble for joining us, talk presenter there, joining us for that analysis. Claire Pistol staying with us. Up next, we're going to be talking to the very brilliant Robert Colvile at the Centre for Policy Studies about what should be happening. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very, very good afternoon. Welcome back to the show. 2 minutes past 12 is the time. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense, and I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Whether you're listening on DAB Plus Radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube, or your connected device, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Of course, we've had the state opening of Parliament, the King's Speech. A lot of people wondering, including apparently Buckingham Palace officials yesterday, whether that state opening was actually going to happen or not, given the threats to the Prime Minister's job yesterday. Well, we know those threats are still going after that 16-minute, count them, 16 minutes meeting between Wes Streeting and the Prime Minister in Number 10 this morning. The Prime Minister finally relented after yesterday's cabinet meeting, and we now know briefings from Wes Streeting allies that he will be planning to challenge the Prime Minister tomorrow. What happens after that? Will Ed Miliband challenge on behalf of the left? Will it be Angela Rayner? Doesn't look likely that Andy Burnham can get in on this round if there is going to be a leadership contest this early. And we know the reason why Wes Streeting is going, deliberately so that he would not face up against Andy Burnham. Many people think that he would be the most popular candidate with not just Labour Party members, but also Labour Party MPs. Oh, yeah. And possibly voters. Well, till he's been in office for a bit and achieved, well, frankly, just as little as Keir Starmer. We're going to be talking about all of that and indeed what was in the King's speech. Nothing that was a surprise, that can certainly be said. We're also going to be talking about the woes for Zach Polanski. The police are being urged to by the Tories to investigate him after he admitted failing to pay council tax while living on a houseboat. What is the problem with all of our politicians' inability to pay the correct taxes? I was a bit confused about where I live. I don't know about you. I know exactly where I live and I know where I need to pay tax. I just think it's utterly bizarre and rather unbelievable. I want to hear from you, though. Your reaction to the King's speech are very welcome. If you manage to stay awake for it, I do struggle with some of these set-piece events, even with all the pomp and circumstance. But I want to know, what do you think Keir Starmer will do? Will he stay? Or will he go? Sounds like he is going to stay put. He's going to need to be dragged out of Number 10, kicking and screaming. He's going to leave his fingernails in the door of Number 10. He doesn't want to go, but do you think he won't have any choice? Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Get in touch on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1. Standard network rate message. Well, Peter Colvile has left the building, but Claire Bearsall is still here, former Conservative government advisor. Claire, in terms of what we heard from the King's speech, was there anything in there that could change anything for Keir Starmer?
No. I mean, it's either stuff that's been recycled from previous announcements. There's nothing new.
I mean, the gay conversion therapies, that's the third or fourth time.
Yeah, and it's the same with some of the energy stuff as well that we've already seen. And all SEND, the special educational needs, that is in there and it has already been said. So it's nothing new. It's sort of jazzed up a little bit in word form, but that's it.
It's a bit blur. I mean, there was talk about defence, but again, that's something we've been waiting for an awful long time.
Over
after
a year.
that defence spending review was, completed a very, very long time ago, and yet we haven't had anything on that. And now that's the most urgent issue. Nothing that's actually going to boost the economy. Nothing tackling immigration. Nothing about net zero. But basically, let's try and go back into the EU without anyone noticing. I hate to tell you, Prime Minister, we are noticing. Well, let's talk about all of this right now with Robert Colvile. He's a columnist at the Sunday Times. One of my must-reads every Sunday, I have to say, is director of the Centre for Policy Studies. Thank you so much for joining us, Robert.
Thank you for that kind introduction.
We were honestly, I saw that you were up next on the news list today. I'd say to my colleagues in the studio, he's one of my must-reads on the Sunday morning, and you absolutely are, because you do look at the policy stuff. We need more people doing the in-depth stuff based on, and this is a crazy idea, facts, because that's always good if you're coming up with policy. Just in terms of the King's speech, what we heard there, A, was there anything new that sparked your interest? And B, what do you think was the most substantive, significant parts of that speech?
I mean, I don't think there was much new. The defence investment plan, they've been wrangling over for months, essentially because they know they need to spend the money, but they don't know how they're going to pay for it. And that still feels like it's the case, that they'll find some money somewhere towards it. It won't be as much as they need. I mean, the EU stuff is... Yes, the EU stuff is interesting, but I think there is a sort of a great delusion on large parts of the left. And I say this as someone who voted Remain in the referendum. That going signing up again for single market EU membership, it's not going to transform the UK's growth prospects. It's not the magic bullet. It's the kind of factional thing that gets everyone on your side quite excited, and it's a kind of comfort food versus something which is actually going to move the needle. If you look at the growth performance of most of the other European countries, they're in just the same mess we are.
Yeah, and yet didn't Brexit. But also none of that tackles the other underlying issues. We had austerity for a reason in the 2010s because of the economic crash, and we're still living the aftermath of that. Then we decided to lock down the entire country and print money during the COVID lockdowns, and then we had the massive bailout of energy costs after the Ukraine war and the massive hit from that. And there's a lot of just ingrained issues in terms of our productivity issues, and a lot of that's related to mass unskilled immigration, which has prevented a lot of that need to invest in technology to boost it. We've got a load of ongoing issues. So when the Labour Party say, look, well, you haven't got any money, but, it's not our fault, the Tories can quite reasonably say, well, none of it was their fault either from the beginning, other than the fact it's kind of all their faults, because it's government after government of many different political hues, different leaders, different person who's heading the government who continued to make the wrong decisions again and again and again, and basically carrying on this country living on the never never, which is what we've been doing for decades.
Yeah, and this is the problem for all of the people who want to be Labour leader. Fundamentally, you can change the Prime Minister. You can't change the bond markets. We're already borrowing, £100 billion plus a year. The rate of interest on that borrowing has gone up. A huge amount of that borrowing is now to pay the interest on the borrowing we're already doing. The stuff that's coming down the track, if the Iran crisis carries on, is pretty grim. And even before all of this, Rachel Reeves had essentially already sort of maxed out the credit card. There is there was a need to pay for higher NHS spending in particular in the first couple of years of the government. They essentially impose austerity again in years 3, 4 and 5, and then after the next election. Like these are spending plans that no Labour government was already going to put up with, and their gamble, their hope was that growth would come back and the numbers would work themselves out. That's not going to happen because of Iran. So the one question to everyone who wants to be Labour leader is what do you do about the public finances? And all of them, well, not all of them, but quite a lot of them seem to want to just wish that problem away.
And again, we've had Andy Burnham saying in the past, backtracking on this, you don't want to be in hock to the bond markets. Well, you cannot be in hock to the bond markets, but that doesn't work if you're borrowing huge amounts to fund everything you do. I mean, it's amazing fact that we actually tax. I mean, people's taxes going up and up, and with the tax thresholds being frozen, the like set to continue to go up and up. And with inflation and pay rises, more and more people who consider themselves to be on very average or below average earnings are going to find themselves dragged into that 40% tax bracket that used to be, for bank managers, not bank tellers, for goodness sake. Or do we have any bank tellers anymore? I'm not sure we do. Certainly not around my way. But this ridiculous statistic that we're taxing people more. So spending more on welfare than we're actually taking in tax. I mean, that is unsustainable.
Yeah, I mean, the way we paid for the expansion of welfare since 1990 was effectively to stop spending money on defence. It was a peaceful world. We didn't need it anymore. Yeah. Now we need to spend money on defence, and we seem unable to accept that actually that money is going to have to come out of welfare. And even the parties which are saying we need to cut welfare are sort of pretending that you can get it all from working age welfare, from some scroungers and rather than actually the truth is we are paying people. People if you're born today, you're probably going to live to 100. Yeah. We can't pay for you for 30 of those years at the end of your life.
Yeah, no, that's the issue. Now, where are you on all of that then? Because that you say, I mean, you can't discuss anything to do with government policy and spending on anything unless you discuss welfare. I think there's a lot of money to be saved from the welfare budget for working age people, because there are a heck of a lot of working age people who've got no business being on age benefits. I also think we need to stop and we need to wean ourselves off all this tax credit and housing benefit. We're spending billions on that. Build more houses, and there are lots of things that will take a long time, but we need to start that process. But at the end of the day, there's plenty of 20-year-olds who say stop giving money to pensioners, they get more money than I do, but not when it means their own gran. Then they feel very differently about it. We saw the reaction to the plan short-lived plan for the winter fuel allowance cut for most pensioners not on the lowest incomes, announced in 2024, bizarrely just out of the blue by the Chancellor, and they had to backtrack on that. That was so unpopular. The idea that you take away the triple off pensions or cut pensions at all, people will say, I've worked all my life, I worked until my pension age, I've got my state pension, I've earned it, and that's the end of the matter.
Yeah, when actually the truth is that everyone, because old age medical care and social care is so expensive, to a rough approximation, everyone does end up taking out more money in the end. But part of this, you talked about politicians and not having courage. We whether it's because of what happened to Theresa May, whether it's because of what happened to Boris Johnson, politicians have internalised the idea that the moment you are honest with the British public about the situation we're in, you lose all support. And that's Margaret Thatcher, who was the co-founder of the think tank I run, she had a great quote, which is, "It is only on the basis of honesty, it's only on the basis of truth that power can be won or can be worth winning at all." Yeah. We're seeing with this government what happens when you just focus on getting into power and you don't actually tell people the truth about the situation and what you're going to need to do.
Yeah, and then you pretend, we've got a big black hole in spending and now we're going to have to put taxes up, and people say, we knew it. I've been banging on about this for a long time. I've talked about this already this week. I think we get the politicians we deserve if the vast majority of voters absolutely insist that we can live on the never, never, forever. Our taxes won't go up, but we want more spending on defence. They don't want pensions cut. We should spend more on education. I want to make sure that we spend more on the NHS. I want my potholes fixed. All the different things everyone demands is spent. We need some help for those waspy women. We need some help for this or that. Compensate this, compensate that. Everyone wants every bit of penny. And you say, and what would you like to cut in return? And how much more would you like to put your tax up? They go, no, no, no. But every politician who is honest, I remember a brief period when David Cameron, when he was leader of the opposition, the Conservatives, before he got into office, and they talked about having to put some taxes up to pay for some crucial things in the wake of all the others, with what was happening in the banking crisis. I mean, genuinely, they plummeted in the polls overnight, and it was only when they dropped that did they get back in and then managed to form the coalition. The reality is voters will not vote for honest politicians.
People loved Rishi Sunak when he was giving them free money. They hated him when he said, and we're going to need a health and social care levy to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is... But then we bring it on ourselves. I'm kind of the view that we kind of need to hit rock bottom. We're going to have to go cap in hand to the IMF before everyone... I think, we're like drug addicts who just need to hit rock bottom before we realise it. In terms of, look, the reality is, some people say we could get a general election, and certainly the likes of Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer demanded a general election every time we had a Prime Minister changing, that job changing hands during the Tory years. So constitutionally, there's no requirement for that whatsoever. But in terms of the runners and riders to take over from Keir Starmer, which of them and why would be better or worse than the current incumbent?
Well, I think we've got a situation quite like we had during Brexit. Everyone in the Labour Party knows they don't want Keir Starmer, but they can't agree on which option should replace him. I mean, my suggestion on Twitter this morning was that they should have a series of indicative votes. So that they...
How did that go down?
No, well.
What about in terms of your choices? Look, I doubt you're a Labour Party member and will get a vote. What would be the best or worst outcome for the British people overall?
Angela Rayner is the person who created the Employment Rights Act, and which has had a tragic impact on employment. Andy Burnham, I mean, Manchester is a fast-growing city, but he's not. A lot of that is due to what happened before he took over. I mean, he hasn't done much. He hasn't done much to sort of dent that story, but he hasn't done much to. His house building record isn't that great. And I have a sort of long-standing theory that Andy Burnham's image, the less people in Westminster see of Andy Burnham, the more they think of him as a brilliant politician.
Yeah, and there's a reason why he was rejected twice for the Labour leadership.
Yeah, I mean, of the candidates, I think Wes Streeting is the most right-wing. He's the one who's actually talked about reforming the NHS. I think fiscally he's probably the one who's got the best head on his shoulders, and will understand the gravity of the situation the country's in. But my endorsement means absolutely nothing. I should stress here.
No, absolutely.
If anything, like Labour people are going to see, do the exact opposite of what I would.
But this is the interesting thing, is that people are talking about changing the Prime Minister, but is there actually evidence, as you say, talking back, what's in the in tray for a Prime Minister? And we were talking about this ahead of the last election. Whoever's Prime Minister of whichever party, whatever rosette they're wearing, whichever wing of a party they're in, they've got the same in tray. You've got wars in Ukraine, you've got them in Iran, you've got the energy policy where, even if someone had the sense to dump the net zero madness, you're still talking years and years before you can feel the impact of that. You've got the ballooning welfare bill, you've got an ageing population, you've got all of that ongoing stuff. You're not going to suddenly miraculously find all those tens of billions of pounds to fit every pothole in the road. I mean, is there any evidence that anyone has got a plan?
So the Labour Growth Group of MPs published a report this week, and I'm still kind of reading through the full thing, but there seemed like
someone
quite a lot
reads this stuff, you know.
I'm that boring guy, but I think it's got quite a lot of good ideas. But that doesn't feel like where the centre of gravity in the Labour Party is. It's like under the Tories, the longer the longer you have under Cameron or Boris, the more you kind of go, oh, we just want some red meat. We want to go back to our kind of comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, I've said since the beginning of this very start, even though we were sort of lots of people going, oh, disgraceful, or we hate this government. Like this was always the most right-wing version of Labour we were going to get at the start, because that's the version that got them elected. And then the gravity of their party, the gravity of their base, in exactly the same way as happened with the Tories, is going to pull them back to their comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have loved it if the Tories got pulled back to their comfort zone and actually did some useful stuff. But there we are. Robert Colvile, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much. He's Director of the Centre for Policy Studies, brilliant columnist at the Sunday Times. I mean, in terms of the depths he goes into and the knowledge, I think all MPs, I mean, certainly my would benefit from reading him every week. They really would, to know some stuff. Not a political opinion, you might agree or disagree, but some facts. Claire Pearsall, what do you make of what you had to say?
It is really interesting that the Labour Growth Group is producing some of, I think, by far the best information coming out of the Labour Party. I don't agree with a lot of it. I mean, that is of no surprise. But they're actually very thoughtful and put together. So I am quite interested to see how that stacks
a sort of coherent plan. I mean, that's the thing. There's you certainly don't get the impression from Keir Starmer that there is any coherent plan, any sort of thought through. As you mentioned earlier on the show, they suddenly just announce this policy, that policy. They haven't asked anyone what they think about it. They don't really. Again, I've said, if I was Prime Minister tomorrow, I'd have 20 things I'd want to do, and it would all be part of a massive coherent plan. Yeah. And I wouldn't even care. I'd say, I'm going to do one term, but I'm going to get a hell of a lot of stuff done in that one term, and then to hell with you. And if you don't like it, don't like it. But you're going to be great. In 20 years' time, you'll all say, thank God Julia was Prime Minister, she got that stuff done. And I really want somebody who'll just come in almost like a unity government and say, can we all accept that we need to get this stuff? Can we all agree we can't afford this, that or the other anymore, and we need to start doing things? But no one will do it.
No, they won't. And politicians now, and we have done for some time, only ever think in 5-year terms. Yeah. So they're not going to do anything that's
I think this government thinks in 24-hour news cycles, and that's what's terrifying.
That's even worse.
But there we are. Or 5-minute X cycles, indeed. Vote Empress. Vote early. 12:19 is the time. We're going to take your calls up next. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. Love to know what you think about the King's speech, but also Keir Starmer. What do you think he will do? Will he stay or will he go? What do you make of this prospect of a Wes Streeting challenge starting tomorrow? Who else is going to run and ride? And how bad can it get while this lot are still here? This is Talk. Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
This is a Talk exclusive. We've been looking at
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:22 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is Talk, and you are on the phone lines 0344 499 1000. Before we get to those calls, though, Claire Pearce, I must put this to you. Al Carnes is someone, actually one of our callers earlier, said, oh, he'd be somebody you'd be interested in. Most of you, look, let's face it, you got lives, you got jobs, you've got to get the kids to school, got, get work done, get the supermarket, book your holidays, whatever you're doing, go to the pub, have a life. Don't spend your time. I mean, most of us, let's face it, couldn't recognise in the street any of those MPs who signed that letter yesterday. Certainly not the four ministers who resigned, with the vague exception of Jess Phillips, and an awful lot of the cabinet, totally unrecognisable. I mean, something like only sort of, is it half of the population know who Kemi Badenoch is? I mean, I know. People, and then people are very scathing about that. But yeah. I think that they actually know. They just don't care. They're busy with their own lives. So we'll worry about it before a general election. But Al Carnes is this defence minister. He's probably killed with his own bare hands, very manly. A lot of people are saying he is, the great white hope as a possible Labour leader. He's someone who could appeal certainly to Middle England as a safe pair of hands. Literally. Well, he's written a long article in the New Statesman, which is basically the Bible of the Labour Party, how Labour can win again. Interesting timing, Al. It's very long. I'm just going to read a short excerpt. What is the point of Labour if it does not represent Sheffield, Stoke-on-Trent, Barnsley, Swansea and Aberdeen, which they don't now? What is the point of the Labour Party if it cannot replace despair and frustration with hope, stability and purpose? The party was founded to give ordinary working people security, dignity and bargaining power over their lives. That is exactly what I believe, and it must be our mission again. We do not need more slogans, strategies, press releases or commissions. We need action. People in this country do not expect perfection, but they do expect seriousness. They expect stability and fairness. They expect a government that is on their side. That is what Labour must be again. It is how Labour defeats Nigel Farage, and it is how Britain recovers. He's running. He's running.
I was about to
Will
say,
he be able to get their support?
Well, I don't know, because it's very difficult to know where he fits in with the grand scheme of the different factions. And also, he became a minister very early on for a new BNP. Yeah. So it takes you out of your natural cohort.
If you're not in the cabinet, or not ex-cabinet, are you credible?
I always think that people are credible if they're sensible, they have ideas. David Cameron didn't have that much experience before becoming leader and prime minister for us, so I don't see why not. And he's got to be better than having Angela Rayner standing up there next to...
well, if we can get the 80 names, there we are then. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Get in touch, 0344 499 1000. Let's get some of your text messages in a moment. First up there, let's talk to Laura Jane in Hampshire. Hello, Laura Jane.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, yeah.
Yes, after the my ambivalence, which was probably mostly despair yesterday, I think Wes Streeting is the best of the bad bunch. He's seems to be a bit more sensible. He's less dangerous. Ed Miliband and I see Andy Burnham in the same camp, dangerous for us all. Angela Rayner just hasn't got the brains. Sorry, Angie, but really. And I think Wes Streeting, I mean, it's not great, any of it. Absolutely exhausted.
Absolutely. Well, they've all been up watching late night telly and listening to late night radio discussing all this. Laura Jane, feel free not to answer, but I'm in terms of your political preference, in terms of who you would have voted for in the local elections or you'd vote for the next election. Is there an argument, if you're not a Labour supporter, that you want it to be either Keir Starmer limping on, walking, crawling, wounded, or actually going the full left wing, Angie Rayner, Angie Rayner, Ed Miliband, and let's just hit rock bottom as soon as possible and get it over and done with?
Well, I think I did feel that to begin with. It's certainly until yesterday when I felt full of despair. But the country is in such a mess. I don't want us to go to rock bottom. I'm lucky. I've just retired. Sorry to say, I'm back getting my pension next week.
Sorry.
Well, a lot of people don't believe in the state pension anymore, and certainly my children won't get one. So anyway, I think I will. I don't mind saying I was a Reform voter from the last election onwards. I was one of the founding members of our local branch here when I first arrived. So yes, I take your point, but I feel for the country as a whole, and I think it's a disaster. We've got to get some kind of safe pair of hands, and at the next election, West Streeting is going to lose his seat anyway.
It's a good point. He's got a majority of under 500, and that's a very good point.
Could I make a point to what you said quite some time ago about donors? And you're very keen on there not being any money sloshing around. When we founded our local branch, one of the things we found very difficult was simply printing leaflets. A lot of us, it's in a rural community. You're talking about petrol. You're talking about people who don't have much money but feel very strongly. And I think we do need a certain amount of money to be able to
and that's
get
cool.
our
There is the thing called the short money from the government. I'm afraid I think it does have to come paid for by taxpayers. I really do. Because I think that's the safest way of protecting our democracy. And a lot of people don't like that, but I think it's safer for us if millionaires and billionaires don't have the ears of our prime ministers.
So where is the fund going to come from? Are you saying that I and my locals just give money?
Well, volunteer donations, but also taxpayers' money. There's actually a lot of evidence, even in America, where money talks, that actually Hillary Clinton outspent Donald Trump in the 2016 election by a fortune. I think by many, many tens of millions, and he still won. I mean, he was getting free advertising on Fox News pretty much every day. But I just think that we are going down the American route far too far, and I don't believe that anyone gives anyone, whether it's £100,000 or £5 million of any party from anyone, because out the goodness of their heart. If you're a good person, you want to do something good, I think you're probably giving that money to a cancer charity or to a clean water in the third world charity. I just do not accept that these people don't want something in return.
Yes, well, I don't know what the answer is then, because I can tell you
taxpayers' money. Taxpayers' money.
Well, a pool?
We already have it. But parties get, it is based on your previous, where you're in the polls and where your previous standing in an election, which does make it harder for new parties. I accept that. There must be a way around this, not beyond the wit of man, where we have, quite a few million quid that is given to parties for political campaigning. For party election broadcasts and the like, from taxpayers' money. I'm afraid I think it's going to have to be more. I know I'm in a small minority on this one, but that's where I am. Laura Jane, I have to leave that because I want to squeeze in Patrick, if that's okay. Patrick, fantastic call, thank you. Patrick's in East Yorkshire. Hello, Patrick, what do you want to say?
Yeah, hello, Empress.
Hello.
My God.
See, he's the only one who's not demoted me today, all this Queen nonsense.
It's half an hour I won't get back in my life there listening to that King's speech. It's nothing new.
I got to be honest with you, I said to Claire and Peter in the studio, can you take notes? I can't do this.
No, I was in despair. I thought, you could tell it was written by a lawyer because everything was legislation. Everything.
Well, that is what it's about. I mean, to be fair.
Action, Julia. I know we want action, and they're not going to do it.
Patrick, I think you'll find that changing the law, having a review, and having another meeting or a summit about something is action.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we know where Rachel Reeves has been. I mean, I'm not a fashion expert, but I think she's been in bed for 3 days in them clothes. She wants to buy an iron. What a state she was.
Do you know what? A lot of people say this is unfair. I don't. I really think that I'm the same with Angie Rayner a lot of the time as well. I really do just think, ladies, could you just buy a few smart suits and just turn up looking smart like the men do? I just don't think it's beyond. Look at Claire in a smart white shirt. I've got a smart orange jacket. I mean, it's not hard. By the way, all my stuff is high street. I'm guessing it's cheaper than their clothes.
And another thing, I mean, the one single line in that speech, what he said, He's going to bring us closer to the EU with trading, etc. Whoa, what a shock that is. You know what I mean? I mean, there was nothing inspiring. If he thinks he's going to hang on because of that damn speech, well, I tell you what, I'm going to walk to the seaside, which is about 200 yards away, and I'm going in the sea, and I'm never coming out. I tell you.
Patrick, who do you prefer or least prefer of the runners and riders to take over from his job?
Nigel Farage.
It's not going to happen this next year, is it? Unless there's a general
election. Could
election.
do something about it, I suppose, if it was bad enough. I mean, they're taking us down the route of absolute bankruptcy here.
Well, yeah, but I hate to tell you, I like to think on this side of the political divide, we believe in democracy. There was a democratic vote, and whatever the reason why people voted Labour, they have a democratic mandate of the Labour runners and riders. Who?
But the person who wrote that speech, they're lying because they said earlier they're going to increase things like defence. No, yeah, not till 2030.
Yeah.
You know,
we'll have been invaded by then.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Let them all in. It doesn't really matter, does it? They're coming in anyway.
I have a funny feeling Patrick is going to go and get a dip in the sea, isn't he? Patrick, very nice being by the sea. Well, we're not looking at the weather right now. Maybe a bit later in the year. Thank you so much for your call. Great stuff there, Claire Pissell.
Oh, and I think that just sums up how most people feel. They're frustrated with a whole lot of them.
Although I don't think most people want to get in the sea, they just want them to get in the sea.
Yes, and I don't recommend anybody goes and gets in the sea. It's very cold at the moment.
Right.
Don't do that.
There you see, Auntie Claire has spoken.
Safety.
12:33 is the time. We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to be hearing about what is going on with Donald Trump on a plane to Beijing and where we are on defence, because we have we've got these pledges about spending more money on defence with that Iran conflict and attacks on our own bases in Cyprus. We'll talk about that up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good morning. Afternoon, sorry. Welcome back to the show. 12:35 is the time. I don't know about you, Claire Pissell, joining me today. I feel a little bit like we're on a sort of a come down after quite a big high. I think we all got so overexcited yesterday about the Prime Minister's going to be forced out. It's all going, and today, the King's Speech, the big set piece event of this week, is a bit sort of. Everyone's like a deflated balloon.
It is. I mean, that is the problem with politics. It's either really, really high or it is incredibly low. There are no in-between times. And I feel the same thing. There was so much news yesterday that I think by the end of it, I had a meeting, a governor's meeting at school last night for a couple of hours where I wasn't listening to politics, and it was almost like withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people do feel that. Well, we'll keep you posted. It looks like we could get it all getting started again this afternoon, this evening, tomorrow with Wes Streeting, and we're expecting a leadership challenge from him. But let's go back to what we did hear in the Queen. Sorry. We said that for a long time. The King's Speech about defence spending. And Dr. Alan Mendoza is Executive Director of the Henry Jackson Society. He's also Reform UK's Chief Advisor on Global Affairs. Alan, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Julia.
Oh, we did have an announcement about a defence offer. I mean, we are a long way along from the defence review about what we needed. We've even had Lord Robertson, the former Labour Defence Secretary many years back, who asked to carry out that review in the last few weeks, basically saying we are not able to defend ourselves, we need action now. What you're expecting to see in terms of the detail of any extra defence spending, is it likely to be even vaguely enough?
No, in short, the government seems to do its utmost to avoid telling us what it would like to spend on defence, or rather where it would like to spend it. And as a result, it's impossible to analyse where we're going. Now, what is clear is that currently national defence is at a very low ebb. It's rather ironic that this Iran war has exposed Britain's lack of military preparedness, let alone anyone else's. And we find ourselves in a very parlous condition. So, you know, a lot more needs to be spent very quickly. But of course, it needs to be spent well. There's no point in spending money on the wrong things.
We don't have
often, has it not, Julia?
We don't have a very good record on that. Indeed, France spends, I think, around the same or less than us, and gets a hell of a lot more of a bang for its buck.
Yes, procurement is not our strong point. It seems across the board this is a problem with government in general. There's waste, we are spending money on the wrong things. Clearly, a whole process needs to be gone through now to make sure we're getting value for money, and we're also spending money on the right things. That also, by the way, needs a defence investment strategy. We're still waiting for that. We need that strategy to come out so we know where long-term we're trying to invest and what we're trying to build up in this country. And again, that will enable us to understand where national defence actually is right now, and of course where it will be going quite crucially. And the clear message is we need to spend it more, we need to spend more, and we need to spend better. That is the obvious answer.
We need to spend it before yesterday. Not in 2029 or 2030.
Yes, because the threats are here. The threats are on our doorstep. The threats are ready for, and we've already seen what happens when we are incapable of meeting basic conditions. You know, when you only have one destroyer limping out and then limping back again because you don't have a navy anymore, that tells you've got a massive problem. So we really do need to get to grips with this because our enemies are building their forces.
Yeah, I mean, this thing, I've been saying to everyone, we're in the 1930s territory. I don't know how many former defence secretaries, former defence chiefs, current defence chiefs, people who really do know what they are talking about can say exactly the same thing, that we need to start taking action. We see, you know, some of our biggest allies like Germany, which of course, you know, was able to benefit actually from not having a big military for many, many years, not spending that money, but having the protection of NATO, now absolutely, completely going hell for leather because they realise that's threatened, and we're just sort of carrying on, sort of whistling in the wind, pretending there's no issue. We are, though, sending drones, jets and warships on a mission to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz, was being reported today. But I mean, have we got any of those things to send?
Well, we do have things to send still. The question is, what are we, what constellation are we sending out? Who's going to be with us in this mission? I mean, those sorts of questions do need to be answered. It's all very well saying we're sending things. We do have some things to send, but the point is, who is it with? What's the mission going to be? If it's just us on our own, that's not going to work. We're obviously assuming there is a big coalition of the willing coming together who's going to help with this. It's quite clear, by the way, that the Americans need to be part of this. The indispensable partner for keeping the strait or reopening the strait is the USA because of its capabilities. So yes, we will contribute because it's in the British national interest to reopen that strait economically. That's why we've got to be there and do that. But we will not be obviously be the main force there. If we are, that's not going to work.
And that's the interesting thing, as Donald Trump points out. America is pretty much self-sufficient in its oil and in its liquid natural gas. Not really their issue.
It is their issue.
But it is what I mean, but not anything like
but it is their issue,
much as it is for Europe. Well, let's talk about what's happening today with Donald Trump. Of course, I mean, we are still ensconced in this Iran conflict, as in we're all impacted by it. We can pretend we're not involved. We absolutely are. Maybe we're not sending any jets or missiles, but we are. But Donald Trump is on his way to Beijing. He's having his second meeting in China with Xi Jinping. Of course, he went over in his first term in office as well. There's quite a lot of concern about what he's willing to offer Xi Jinping in return for Xi Jinping's help in dealing with the threats from Iran, Russia, elsewhere. What are the biggest worries?
Well, this is, it's ironic, isn't it? We've been, kind of navel-gazing domestically about this 16-minute coffee meeting here. Actually, the most consequential meeting of the day is going to happen in Beijing, isn't it? Yeah. Because that's actually the long-term future of the world, which is a slightly bigger problem. So, yes, the problem is that people are assuming that there might be, sort of trade giveaways and, all kinds of weakness happening on China on this visit. Look, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. I think the idea that Donald Trump's going to turn up and just give China all kinds of trade goodies and say, here, take Taiwan. That's not a real understanding of who Donald Trump is. He will obviously be looking to strike trade deals. That's what he does, of course, but not at the cost of US national security interests. So he'll be wanting the best deal he can get for American companies while preserving some of his tariffs, which, of course, are in disarray because of the US Supreme Court decisions.
Well, we're a long way from those 100% tariffs on all Chinese goods, aren't we? Apart from this good, apart from this good, apart from that, and then you cut that, and then, you know.
Yes, so it became very piecemeal, and here's your problem. So, you know, that's not going to work. That's not going to fly a uniform tariff policy. So, where does it end up? You know, in the negotiations, the Chinese obviously will be trying to get their good. I mean, don't forget they need things too. It's, you know, both sides have got things that they want to get from the other in terms of trading deals, and they don't want to give away too much in response to that. But the Chinese also have a weakness. Their weakness is their economy is stuttering. It is not proceeding at the growth that they need it to grow at. So there is a need for them to come to a deal as well.
Yeah.
This isn't.
This is the interesting thing. There was a lot of talk about how there was this, you know, 4D game of chess being played by Donald Trump, and in terms of dealing with Maduro. In South America, and the oil supplies there, but also dealing with Iran, and actually basically bringing China to heel by being able to control their access to oil and other, you know, vital minerals. And actually, there was a bigger game plan, because one of the reasons why Donald Trump was saying, look, Ukraine's your problem, Russia's your problem, we don't have an issue. We're dealing with what's going on across the Atlantic, but also the Pacific, and that China was seen as the burgeoning threat, and we're going to be focusing our attention there. And there is just this concern now that's not going to last the course, if that is whatever what was happening.
I think the Americans are very cognizant that China is the great threat on the, not even on the horizon, it's there. They know it. And they know it, for example, look at the focus on AI that this mission has as well. You've got a lot of AI companies going over, tech companies going over, because they know there's a big threat from the Chinese here, and they have to therefore ascertain where are the Chinese in their development strategy here, because they can't. America cannot lose that race. In fact, none of us can afford America to lose that race. The idea that we have a Chinese AI future should terrify all of us.
I think the AI future on either side is terrifying, but particularly
that's true, Julia. But I'd take my chances more with the American bots and the Chinese bots and this sort of kind of positioning, simply because we know what the Chinese do with technology. They control people, they repress. They will use it to cheat and lie and do these things, basically. So we need the Americans to be on top of this, of their game in Beijing, and to be cognizant of the threat. So again, I don't think they're going to be just rolling over there, because that's a long-term detriment to the US. And so I think we're going to see a very hard bargaining session going on between the two powers. Obviously, we don't want a trade war to emerge at the end of it, but we don't want the Chinese to emerge victorious from the battle.
No, it's a really difficult one, isn't it? But again, everyone is so interconnected in this world, and again, all these trade sanctions we've had on Russia, particularly on the oil and gas in the wake of the Ukraine war. It took a long time to wean most of Europe off that oil and gas that was funding the war that they were then helping to fund on the other side. But we're not in a position, no one in the world, including America, is in a position to have economic sanctions on America if they did, say, invade Taiwan or anything else, simply because our entire economies are based on these cheap goods. Equally, their economy is based on selling us those cheap goods.
Yes. And that's the point. And the point, everyone's got to lose here from bad behaviour, as it were. Yeah. So the question has to be to deter bad behaviour and go, look, this is not in anyone's interest. We're going to make sure there's a strong deterrent strategy to keep you within your guardrails, and then we can prosper in that way. But also, don't think you're going to be able to gain control of our strategic industries. We're not going to allow that either. So
I think they already have. I hate to tell you, Alan. We'll have to leave it there, Dr. Alan Mendoza. Actually, no. I'm just going to ask you now. Just while we were talking, the Parliamentary Standards Commission have just announced that they will investigate Nigel Farage, your party leader, over the £5 million gift he received from crypto billionaire Christopher Harburn, given to him in early 2024, of course, before he was an MP. Before I actually believe that he was actually even considering returning to frontline politics in the 24 general election. There is a requirement that any donation before, certainly anything up to £5 million, before you, even in the year before you become an MP, is expected to be registered. He did not register it on the basis he said it was a personal gift that was meant to fund his security for the rest of his life, big security issues we know that he faces ever since he hit the front lines of politics, and that he still believes that it's not necessary for him to declare it. What do you make, as a representative of Reform UK, that he will be facing that investigation?
Well, I think it's no surprise the establishment's trying to stop him at every cost. I mean, I think people out there know, of course they are. I think the people out there know that if someone whose life is constantly at risk, and it is, I've seen the security around him, I know the threat he gets. Okay, and the state's not prepared to protect him. Why should anyone in public life put their life at risk?
That's not the point. I agree with you. I think it's absolutely disgusting that he doesn't get state-funded security.
Well, exactly.
But he could have taken that £5 million to fund his security. We know it's in the hundreds of thousands a year. This is not a panic button like a Labour MP who once had a nasty tweet about her written. We are talking about proper security.
It's 24/7 security.
He could have taken that £5 million, and I've got no issue with that, but he should have declared it.
Well, again, I think the question is this actually a declarable thing? They can investigate.
Of course it is.
I'm not so sure it is. Let's have a look and see what that investigation...
If on balance, and as we've seen, people could claim that it looks dodgy, you should declare it. That's literally in the rules, that basically if it can be perceived to be something that could influence you. And when a crypto billionaire gives you £5 million, that could obviously be perceived, because people are perceiving it as impacting on his policies.
Well, I would buy that if that crypto billionaire wasn't giving open public donations as well. Here's the whole point.
But then why not declare the £5 million?
He's publicly doing that.
Then
so
why
the
not
idea
declare
that
the
he's
£5
somehow
million?
getting any special treatment in this way, it seems to me laughable.
I'm not part of the establishment. I'm not trying to stitch up Nigel Farage, but I think he should have declared it.
Okay, well, that's for the investigation to sort out. I think he's going to, have a good defence about why he didn't, and we'll let them decide.
Doesn't he just have to show the receipts for the security and then job done?
Yeah, I think he'll be able to do that. I can assure you. I know his security. It is tough. It is expensive, tough security, because he needs that from the threats of people who want to kill him. So yes, I think he will have the receipts to show.
But I mean, again, I don't think he should have to, because I think we should be paying for it ourselves. Really appreciate you joining us, Dr. Alan Mendoza, Executive Director of the Henry Jack Society, also Reform UK's Chief Advisor on Global Affairs. I'm going to go to a quick break, and then I'm going to get Claire Pearsall's reaction to that. And we're also going to be talking about Zach Polanski, the Green Party leader, getting in some trouble over not paying his council tax as well. This is Talk. Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in, as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at. I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:50 is the time. Let's get Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor's view on this announcement from the Parliamentary Standards Commission. I think we always knew this was going to come. They announced they're going to investigate Nigel Farage receiving that £5 million gift before he became an MP from the crypto billionaire Christopher Harbin, who has become who's a public donor. He has given other donations to the party. It was before he became an MP. Nigel Farage says, look, this is for my security. It's nothing to do with politics. I don't have to declare it. We just had Alan Mendoza of the Reform Party saying this is an establishment stitch-up trying to stop Nigel Farage. Do you think that's the case?
No, I don't. There are rules in place for MPs of any colour to register gifts, donations, hospitality, etc.
Like the Prime Minister's free suits.
Absolutely, we found out about that. And if it doesn't have to be registered, then absolutely fine. But I don't see why Nigel Farage didn't just register it or ask the question, should I have to do it? And then if the Commissioner had come back previously and said, no, it's fine, then you'd have that detail to go ahead with. I just don't understand why you wouldn't register it to avoid this kind of
and
conversation.
These things always come out in the end. Things like not paying your stamp duty properly on your second home if you're the Deputy Prime Minister, or if you're the Green Party leader, not paying your council tax on your houseboat. We'll talk about that right now. Joanna Marchong joins us. She's with the Adam Smith Institute, the free market think tank. A very good afternoon to you, Joanna.
Hi, Julia. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for joining us. I want to ask you about Zach Polansky. He's also faced some difficulties. The Tories are calling for the police to investigate Zach Polansky after he admitted, first of all, spokespeople said he hadn't not paid his council tax. He didn't believe he was due it on a houseboat that he barely was there. He wasn't his main home. They then admitted it was his main home, and yes, it was due council tax, and he's going to make efforts now to pay the full council tax. But is that what would happen to any of us if we hadn't paid our council tax?
Yeah, that's exactly the point, right? It's, he's very sorry, he's going to repay it, but if it was any of us, we would incur large fines. We would also have the council knocking on our doors all the time. I mean, he is the leader of the fastest growing political party in this country. The Greens aren't just a fringe party anymore. People take them seriously. And his entire fiscal programme rests on the principle of people with assets should be paying more in tax. So I just think it's ridiculous that he's made this ridiculous mistake after a week of scandal after scandal, after things he's also lied about in his job history.
Well, this is it. I mean, all the different places that he apparently has worked and they've never heard of him. I'm surprised that his stint at HMRC didn't teach him how to pay for his council tax. But he never worked there. But who knows? He may have claimed at some point that he did, along with a major charity as a spokesman and working for the Ministry of Justice, which he never did either. I mean, it is quite bizarre. I mean, people calling him Walter Mitty character and other ruder versions of that as well. But this is the thing. A lot of people are very confused. We don't own houseboats. We live in flats or we live in houses. And most of us own one property on which we are required to pay council tax. We don't have a second home like Angela Rayner. We don't all have to pay the extra amount. We're not renting a home out, but we also that different council tax, whatever rates. What are the rules for houseboats? Because the claim seems to have been, well, he was barely there, and therefore it's not eligible for council tax, and he was never sent a council tax bill.
So this story actually gets a lot more complicated, right? So it's the kind of details as to whether he was living there, and his neighbours said that he was there frequently, he was always present, he had his laundry collected from the boat. However, the Lee Valley Authority says that he never rented the bungalow, he registered as his address on the electoral roll. So it's an issue of, have you committed electoral fraud, or have you failed to do that, which is a criminal offence, because if you're signing a declaration of residence at an address where you don't live, that is a criminal offence.
And you actually have to officially live there. It can't just be somewhere. You can't be sofa surfing. And that's the thing. Like, so he registered saying he was living somewhere else, not on the houseboat. But the neighbours are all going, "Yeah, you were here every day. You lived on the houseboat." And his defence was, "Well, I wasn't living on the houseboat." We're into Angie Rayner and her council house territory, aren't we?
Yeah, and essentially what I think is the funniest part of this is his property in Hackney, which he's supposed to be. He first lied and said he was paying council tax on his rented property in Hackney. Yeah. I mean, that place is worth about £2 million. It's a 5-bedroom property that he's sharing with another Green politician. So, I mean, him... But
I don't know what I have to say for legal reasons whether he lied or not, but the claim, I think, was that in that property... How many bleeding properties have these people got? What am I doing wrong? But that the council tax was included in the rent.
Yes, that was his first claim, but they've both kind of fallen through as of this morning. And I think, as the day has progressed, and now he's saying, "Oh well, I'm really sorry. I've just made a mistake. I'm really confused."
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is the thing, and whether it's people, getting, paying, Nadeem Zahawi, who was very briefly, Tory Chancellor, in the battles with HMRC of the amount of tax he had to pay, or whether it's not paying full stamp duty on a house purchase when you're the housing secretary and brought in a rule about higher stamp duty, whether you're not paying your full council tax. The thing that really gets people's goats is that most people, they're struggling to get the money together. They get that new direct debit line through from the council saying what their new council tax is, and they go, oh my God, how are we going to afford that? They are struggling to pay all of these taxes. They don't have a choice. They don't get to negotiate with HMRC about it. They don't get to negotiate with the council about it. They're not going, oh, is this my second home or my third home? I don't know. Most people, are lucky even to have a home they own this day and age. So that's why this really angers people, doesn't it? Because there's this sort of casual attitude towards the stuff that the rest of us take really seriously.
And it's also it's a massively growing party. We're trying to take you seriously, and it's a fundamental failure to engage with exactly what people are going through and the tax obligations that you have. I mean, everyone has to follow this. It's not I don't know, mind blowing or something that no one has to pay. I mean, everyone pays their council tax. How are you getting that wrong?
And we're seeing this again and again, and it's a general hypocrisy issue, isn't it, with the Green Party? And again, they've had a Green Party newly elected councillor, Mr. Green, not they mention that very often, driving around in a gas-guzzling Lamborghini, and it's just madness, isn't it? Joanna Marchand, really appreciate you joining us. She's at the Adam Smith Institute. I hope you'll come on the show again. Thank you very much. Claire Pearson. I mean, look, we've also had, again, because of all the shenanigans in the House of Commons and in the Labour Party in the last few days, haven't got to this since the local elections, which is the Indian student who claims he's trans. He's a bloke. He's an Indian bloke. He's come over here on a temporary student visa and who stood under the law, completely legal in Scotland because they're crazy up there and a lot of these things. The SNP allowed this. You can be 16 years old to vote, and you cannot even be a resident in this country permanently. Stand for election, and now he's got a 5-year term, and his visa's only lasting another 2 years, and he's crowdfunding to apply for it. That's madness.
It is, and there are so many restrictions on student visas. You shouldn't work more than 20 hours a week.
And it's a 70-hour-a-week job.
It is. Absolutely. Being paid an awful lot of money. So, no, I think this needs to stop and somebody needs to take him to task over that.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just extraordinary that these things happen. Again, what a surprise. People on the left are complete and utter hypocrites. Other than the fact, if they do believe in full open borders, so fair dues to them on that one thing. By the way, just to let you know, President Trump has just landed in Beijing. And indeed, Ian Collins has landed in the studio as well.
Yeah, I was in Beijing an hour ago, so straight over there,
now.
Back to here.
Do you get the welcome when you arrive anywhere? I once did the red carpet thing with Tony Blair when I was a political analyst, arriving everywhere to a band going, whatever the equivalent was.